Okay. All right, Ken, we're ready to go. Welcome.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. Tonight I want to touch. The reason why I wanted to talk tonight is not so much for down a path towards solutions as much as it is towards a path of understanding. And I'm getting increasingly perturbed, I guess, by people that are asking me questions and about these bar attorneys that just aren't seeming to get it, and persisting with these foreclosures. I think their arrogance is going to really catch up to them. I think it's going to catch up to them pretty quickly. I think that what we really need to come to an understanding on is exactly what we're dealing with here. I'm also, I also fight the balance between these 14th Amendment arguments and exactly what the birth certificate is, and the idea of what a living man, a living person is, and natural person, and all these different distinctions that we're dealing with here. And I think what we really need to do here, what we really need to kind of make a concentrated effort on and come together as a group on, is to come to an understanding of exactly what we're dealing with, and what the components of what we're dealing with are entailed here. A lot of people seem to have forgotten, maybe not have forgotten, but have failed to realize that the economy. There's background noise. The economy has all but been wiped out as we knew it. The paradigm that we believed to be in place. Now, this is irregardless of whether Glass-Steagall was thrown out or not. We were still kind of with this belief that it was business as usual, and that's simply not the case. But first of all, before I go any further, I probably should put my little disclosure in. And because I want to greet everybody that did come, and I'm sure that there's a couple trolls and moles in the audience. I hope there are, actually. I really do. I hope there are, because I hope that you're listening. Because the trolls and moles that are listening, or these little foreclosure mill shits that are listening, understand something, that we're going to catch up to you. And I do believe these foreclosure mill attorneys, they're nothing but shits. They're little shits that don't know anything.
Ken, can we get everybody to mute their mics, please? We still have a couple people whose mics are on, and we're getting background feedback, and we need
not a background
mic. Thank you.
Still there.
How do you mute? Hello?
You go to your, okay, you go to your microphone. Are you on the phone, or are you on your computer?
I'm on the phone.
Okay, then you would press *6 for mute, I believe.
All right, hang on.
That's silence.
Oh, okay.
It worked.
Thank you.
It worked. Thank you. So first of all, I'm not an attorney, obviously. I'm not. I don't have a law degree. Thankfully, I don't. I'm not. And I would shoot myself, I think, if I was an attorney. I'm not an attorney, so therefore, anything I'm talking about on here is not legal advice. As a matter of fact, it's for entertainment purposes. And really, it is for entertainment purposes, because what we're dealing with here are things that are so ludicrous and so out of the realm of any kind of reality or any kind of moral indignation that it is entertaining. It's that ludicrous and that ridiculous and blatant. So nothing I say on here is for legal advice. We are dealing with all administrative processes, of course. There is no such thing as legal. I mean, legal is just codes and statutes, and it's just fixed administrative processes. So that being said,
I also want to address the copyright of the work here tonight as well.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that you wanted to give a disclaimer for that, or disclosure.
Yeah, work for the copyright. This disclaimer goes to the team I'm working with and the website that we're preparing, and everything will transfer over to that. Another reason for the purpose of this conversation is to kind of segue over into the website and to take things into a private, a firewalled section, so that we can openly talk about things and openly disclose documents, put everything out there. And it's not so much because we're trying to hide anything from anybody in the public side. You got to remember, what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with private matters. if the last thing that we want is a class action lawsuit for 100,000 or 1 million people. We don't want that. What we're dealing with here is because we're dealing with the theft of an individual's common law copyright and identity, each remedy is going to be individual to that individual person, and it's private. Because there is no such thing as as law anymore, and everything is codes and statutes, the remedies are going to be exclusive and they're going to be gained by administrative processes. So these are all individual things that are done on the private side. So that's one of the reasons why we have to take this to a firewalled private website so that we can be more open to talk about the things that we want to talk about. That being said, this recording is kind of reserved for the copyright thereunder of my team, who are probably very angry at me because I didn't talk with them before I arranged this conversation. But I hope you understand that I'm doing this for the good reasons. I'm rallying the troops. And that's really the purpose of this call. Another purpose of this call is to start rallying the troops and start putting out the call that we have to come together and we have to address certain issues here. We've got to come together on a common platform in which direction we're going in. We've come so far, so many years fighting these matters on the court side, and I understand everybody's pain when they say, "Well, the court's not doing this, the court's not doing." I know, I've been there, I've done it. I mean, I've walked into the courtroom. I fought HSBC as a pro se. I fought him for 3 years in the court, and lost on summary judgment back in 2015. Here it is, 2017. I'm still here, and they can't touch me. They can't touch me at all because I've taken measures so that they won't touch me. But, it's, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a religious man, although I fully understand the biblical aspects of all of this and the biblical nature of this. And I guess I suppose it frightens me insofar as the roles are concerned. And I don't want to address that because that's when ego gets in the way and I have to deal with the why me situation. I'm not a praying man either. Although I feel the hand of God is guiding me in some weird, strange way, which I can't really quite understand. I guess it's more of a question of why me. I'm not a polished speaker by no means, and I never want to be polished. I am, because that won't be me any longer. I'm just an ordinary guy who talks too damn fast, cusses too much, and occasionally stumbles over my words because my mind goes faster than my mouth does. I mean, God, can you imagine, Joanne, if my mind and my mouth were in sync, nobody would understand me. I'm pragmatic about things, and things have to make sense to me, and there has to be a logic to things. And, at the end of the day, what happened here is you stole my prize-winning pig, you bred it, you sold
I thought it was
DNA
a horse. I thought it was a horse.
Well, it was a horse, but I'm mixing it up a little bit. I kind of think of my prize-winning, who's a little pig? Not and Charlotte's Web. Who's the little pig? I forgot what his name was.
I missed that book.
Charlotte was the pig.
No, Charlotte was the spider.
Yes.
I forgot what the pig's name was. But anyhow, you stole my little piglet, and you bred it, and then you drained its DNA and sold it for profits and enrichment. I got no share of it. Worse, what you did is you poisoned my pig, and you slowly killed it. And you took me down with it. And to me, there's no logic. There's no logic in any of this. The problem is that what we have here is we've got criminal acts. These criminal acts that are committed against me and against all of us, but nobody knows what these criminal acts are because we've all been diverted to think of something entirely different or believe to something totally different. And that is that a mortgage bank never ever existed to begin with, when in fact it hasn't. And so we've got to break down those barriers now. And I think that the world is starting to wake up now. I think we've had enough of, let's see, when did the economy crash? In 2008. So we've got almost 10 years, 8 years, 9 years of all these foreclosures. And I think, and I remember in the early years that these were going on. It was just terrible, horrible. I mean, you heard about all the suicides and the heart-wrenching stories of people losing their houses. It's still going on today. I think we're smarter though today. I think we're finally starting to come around to realize, hey, something's not right here. We've gone in the court, we've made the chain of title arguments, and we scratch our heads in our asses as we're walking out thinking, what the hell? Why isn't this stuff working? And it doesn't make sense. And we bitch about the courts and the judges. And yes, I could tell you for 1,000% certainty, it's rigged. Everything's rigged. The whole process is rigged. These bar attorneys are little slime balls. They've rigged the system, and the way they've rigged everything, and this is what we've got to come to understanding and come to grips here, because we can win these things. We can win these things. I mean, I'm not just talking on a nationwide level. I'm talking on a global level. And by God, we have to address what's going on here. We have to come to grips, and we have to take the time, and we have to. Well, first of all, we have to do, and I realize this is hard for a lot of people to do. I know there's quite a few people on my page that I see they're fighting with. I mean, I see them fighting, and I see them fighting, and they're trying really, really hard. But they just won't let go of that last little vestige of hope that, well, maybe I can win in the court. Gee, maybe I can do this. You know, you got to let it go. You got to let all that stuff go, because you're never going to win in the court. You can't. You can't win in a court that is completely fixed. And it's fixed by administrative processes that you have no idea what they are unless you take the time to put your eyes on them, unless you take the time to study them. And yes, I mean, it does take time. You have to study this stuff. You have to familiarize yourself with the things that we're dealing with. And what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with three main things, three main components: copyright, trademark, and patents. And, well, let's make it four things. Let's throw in administrative processes and uniform acts on top of that, which, of course, are rooted in patents and trademarks and copyrights. But as far as the way that these are being executed in real time, it's through the administrative processes. And so what we have to realize is what our value is. What is your value? Who are you? You know, you're a living man, living woman. You're a natural person. Now, some people, when I say natural person, some people go off and you can't say natural person, and they give you all a diatribe on why you can't say this and that. Well, no, you are a natural person, because it's relative to the data, to the code section or the agency that you're dealing with, and it changes. You know, we are. If you see what a person is defined as a partnership of, you know what the definition of persons are. But if you go under the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia, you're getting a person is defined as a consumer, and a consumer is a licensee of information. Okay, so you think, okay, well, what the hell does that mean? How does it apply to me? Well, it applies to anybody who's put their signature upon a Fannie and Freddie loan document that contains the word MERS. And that's where we begin with this stuff. That's where we've got to begin. We've got to address the nature of the contract that we believe that we signed. And that's a Fannie and Freddie document. And relative to mortgages, and that's what we're kind of, let's kind of stay on that subject, because this applies to everything: Sallie Mae, car loans, credit cards, everything. But the easiest illustration, and the thing that we fight the most, of course, these days is the mortgage fraud. And so what we're fighting here is we're fighting our signature that was put upon a document that was is a common law copyright, common law trademark, and a trade name, which was converted unlawfully to an electronic, digital, private, public, cryptographic key. And the means by which they did that, and I'm sure you've all read these terms, and I know that we've mentioned them all the time, and they're talked about all the time. Incorporated by reference. You know, now, yes, we were incorporated at reference at birth, absolutely. But we're going to fast forward. We're going to kind of stick to the subject of mortgages, because this all relates to that. Because what we actually signed when we signed these Fannie and Freddie documents, we signed away our rights, title, and interest to any kind of life whatsoever. We put our hands into whoever would pay a licensing fee to buy our name on a customer list. And that said customer list could be sold into marketable securities, whether it be for a debt reparation, whether it be for your intentional failure, your intentional default, which is that everything is planned, because there is no such thing. And this is what's important to understand. When we think that we bought a house and we have ownership and title to a house, and our payments that we're paying are for a mortgage loan, they're not. So what we have to do in understanding and moving forward on these things, people, folks, is we've got to come to grips and understand what that contract is and how we relate to this contract and where we fit in with this contract. Now, understand that when you give up your rights to your copyrights, your unregistered copyright, okay, let's roll back to birth now. When you were born, there's all kinds of theories on this and what happens and so on and so forth. And I'm gonna disagree with a lot of people that say these are debt bonds. They're not debt bonds. They're savings bonds. They were issued a series of savings bonds when we were born. The key word, savings, not debt, savings bonds. And when we turned to the age of majority, we failed to redeem those savings bonds, and we rolled over into adulthood as an incompetent because we did not redeem those savings bonds and make our declaration that we are self-governing and that we can take care of ourselves and we are competent individuals rolling into adulthood. Now, is that our fault? Yeah, okay, it is kind of our fault because we didn't know, but it really isn't our fault because it was intentionally hidden from us. It was intentionally hidden from our parents and their parents before them. So you know, these are issues that go back a long ways, but they're kind of supercharged. Kind of think of it's like a Mexican jumping bean or a fart in a bottle, or something on steroids, because that's the kind of issues that we're dealing with right now. So your one person is thousands of different people now that have been fractionalized. So what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with issues of a stolen copyright, of a rehypothecation and fractionalization of the human being in a virtual world setting. Now, a lot of people will say, and you're right, a lot of people say we're on the waters, and Admiralty Maritime, absolutely right. We are dealing with Admiralty Maritime. We're dealing with coastal waters and the upper continental shelf and all these things. We're dealing with all these things, submerged property, so on and so forth. But there's one other sea that we don't take into account that we have to take into account because it's really crucial to what we're dealing with here. And that's not even a sea, it's a universe. That universe is of the internet. And when we get into issues and we start talking about citizenship and issues of that nature, we've got to take into account, we've got to understand we've got to understand how we relate to all these things. And this is why it's important to take the time to, you know, I'm not saying take 10 years and study this stuff and learn all the intricacies of it. I mean, God, I spent 10 years on this stuff. I want to wish upon my worst enemy to spend 10 years on this stuff. I mean, it's hell. I mean, it took a lot to learn this stuff, you know. So, you know, my goal is to try to instill what you need to be able to understand these things and kind of I don't want to say function, but to some degree, I guess it is function. To learn how to function in this new economy, so that you can take it from there and you can expand and do well from there. What we have is we've got a great opportunity here. That, you know, you hear me talk about the Merged Nations Bank Agreement a lot. That agreement and that rehypothecation of us, that was what we did there was we signed away and became involuntary servants. But at the same time, though, it's people like to use the word redemption, and I don't like that word. I just don't like the word redemption. I don't like the word straw man. I don't like a lot of the words that are being used nowadays because they're really outdated. And it really is outdated because you got to take into account what's happened from 1998 onward, and the new components have been thrown into this, and those new components are the internet, and the universe of the internet, and the borderless, stateless aspects of the internet. So now, when you start getting into issues of citizenship, as we so often do, and domicile, and so on and so forth, you've got a whole other aspect here to deal with, and that aspect is the internet and the borderless aspects of the internet. And so what they've done here is they've taken our identity through the Merged Nations Bank Agreement, and they've created, they ran us through as grantors, and also as the guarantor of the collateral through a various number of patented processes, which are nothing more than financial get-rich-quick schemes or ways to foreclose on somebody effectively, or a hedge fund, or any kind of financial product that needs grantors, needs objects in order to make these patents run. And those objects that are run through these patents are you and I. So we're grantors to all these money-making patents or these financial patents that we're not aware of. Okay, so behind our back, while we're happily going about our life, paying our mortgage, what we think is a mortgage, we've got people behind us that are raping us, or that are pillaging everything that we own, that are valuing our life and how long we're going to live, and when we're going to die. They're taking gambling bets on when we're going to die, and the big payout is when we do die. And I'm not speaking of literal death. I'm speaking of figurative death, legal death. So here you got a conflict now. Now you got a conflict with, well, okay, wait a second here. We already are legally dead. We're not alive anyhow because we got that fiction out there. We're just a fictional character. No, you're not a fictional character. You're a living human being. You're a living man, living woman. But you're mixed up. You've been mixed up with your legal fiction. Which some would say is a straw man, and you've been commingled with it because you cannot collect a debt from a legal fiction. It has to ground somewhere, and that grounding is with the living man, living woman, in foreclosure or in some other kind of court case where you have some jackass judge ruling you financially incapacitated. So you can lose your home. But there's a lot more going on than that. And these are the things that we got to understand. These are the things that people don't understand. We're dealing with things that go so far beyond a mortgage loan and real property. The real property is a mask. That's an illusion. That's an illusion. This has nothing to do with real property. Well, I'll take it back. It does. It has everything to do with real property. But what it's masking is what this is really about. And what this is really about is your estate. You're very valuable. We're all very valuable. And when the economy was overhauled between 1998 or starting 1998, and this rehypothecation of, you got 1,000 mini Joannes running out there. That can be kind of scary, but
oh my God, that would be.
But that's what you have out there. You've got they've created thousands of us out there, and they've sliced us in half and sliced us in 16 slices and all these little slivers, right? But what they did is they would sell our sliver off to, say, Deutsche Bank through a letter of Bailey and a trade agreement. Warehouse receipt would be returned, and the agreement would be, well, you hold on to this group of assets with Mini Joanne and Mini Ken in there, and Mini Feline and Mini Mr. Stiffy out there, but treat it as if it's an asset on your own books. So that's the same as saying, okay, well, you've got a little slice of me, but I'm going to sell you at full value. Okay, so now Deutsche Bank has a 16th slice of a Mini Joanne, valued at maybe $10,000, let's say, but they're going to sell it at full value. When what's the full value? The full value is what, in this case, the value of your principal loan, mortgage, at $350,000. But they're not even going to sell you at that. They're going to sell you at full amortized value, which is 30 years down the road. So they're going to sell that sliver, 16th sliver of Joanne for full value at 30 years amortized. They're going to do the same thing with J.P. Morgan Chase, the same thing with Wells Fargo, the same thing with Morgan Stanley, and down the road it goes. So you're pretty damn valuable, Joanne.
I thought so. Are. From the beginning, I thought so. Let's just flip the tables, though. Let's return this stream back to its source.
Well, yes, that's right. That's right. Now there's everything. There's nothing in the world that tells us that we do not have rights to reclaim or redeem the accounts or revest the accounts. There's nothing out there that says that. As a matter of fact, everything out there says that we can do this, and we have every right to do this. Now, I do understand. I get it. I respect it. I really do. And I think that as you guys come to understand this stuff, or maybe if you already understand it, you understand the importance of our being valued. And now people say, "Oh, we're debt slaves, and we're valued." And hey, that's a good thing, though. I mean, you got to look at every negative is a positive, for God's sakes. We got to stop looking at the negative aspects of this and thinking, "No, we're debt slaves." Yeah, but wait a minute, we're more than debt slaves. We're the private equity. We're the private equity that's built this country. We're the ones that built the bridges. We're the ones. I mean, it was our private equity that was used for these things. We just never got a cut of that. Okay, it's not that we don't have a right to get a cut of it. Of course, we got a right to get a cut of it. But the question is, how do you do it? That's what's the secret sauce? What's the secret juice that gets us there? We know what that is now. We know the path now. And those are things that we're going to talk about and do behind firewalls. But we know the path now, and there's a lot of paths that are opening up for remedy and for redemption, if you want to call it that. But I do understand. I get it. I get the reason why it's there. And I get the reason that if everybody knew this, everybody would do a run on the bank and the economy would collapse. And it would be the worst thing possible, because you have to have sheeple out there. You got to have people out there that have their heads up their asses, just like we did. Joanne, you had your head up your ass. I had my head up my ass. We all did. We all have for years. We all had our heads up our asses until we got reamed. And now we find ourselves fighting this never-ending battle that we can't seem to win. And if anybody's more deserving of redemption, it's us. It's the people that have struggled with these things for years and have fought these battles and have lost so much that deserve this. And so we deserve to know what that path is. Now, as far as the sheeple are concerned, we think, oh, well, save the world. No, we're not going to save the world. We don't want to save the world. We can't save the world. All we can do is to save ourselves, our friends and our neighbors that seek these paths, I guess, is the best way to look at it. Because in order for the economy to function, you have to have sheeple. Now, they've gotten everything out of us that they can get. If it's anywhere like my area here, you're exploding. Your building boom is exploded. And me, every time I see it, I kind of scratch my head and think, Jesus, how the hell is everybody going to afford these things? I just don't see it. I don't see how they're going to afford these things. And I see a lot of buildings vacant, but I see buildings filling up. But what they're doing is just setting up the next collapse. I know this. Why? Because I can track it through the patents. Because there is no such thing as there's no such thing as secret bank secrets. Bank secrets. There's no bank secrets. There's no bank secrets at all. It's patents. All I got to do is spend time and understand the patents, which does take a lot of time to understand. But once you understand all those and you understand what's going on here, and it's like business cycles. Everybody say, "Oh, it's a business cycle." No, bullshit. It's not a business cycle. It's the Federal Reserve that has crashed every economy and built it up and then crashed it again. Bar attorneys that are complicit with it. I mean, let's not fool each other. Let's not fool anybody about what's really going on here. And I guess for the first time in history, we do have an opportunity here. For the first time in history, we know what they've done. We know how they did it. And we know that it's despicable. It's RICO. It's racketeering. It's every criminal act you can possibly think of. And they've admitted to everything. And we know it. Why? Because they wrote it down in their own words. Goldman Sachs, their opportunity cost patents. The HSBC, their conversion and fabrication patents. Bank of America, their fabrication patents. I mean, they're all fabrication patents. So it's all patent fraud. Everything. Well, what we got to do is we've got to abandon the ideas of old. And if you're fighting foreclosure, and as a lot of people are frustrated because these attorneys just keep coming at you. You've got to, until we can get the ball rolling here further, and it is rolling. The ball is rolling. It's going to start rolling very, very fast. I would imagine in a relatively short period of time here, next coming month or so, it's going to start rolling very fast. So for any bar attorneys that are listening out there, you little fucks are done with. You're done. You're done. You can't fight this. You cannot fight a person who says you're fired, because they have every right to. You have every right to fire these people, because at the end of the day, the person on the other side of that MERS agreement is who? Who is it? It's you. It's you. It's you. That Fannie and Freddie document is the biggest fraud in history. It's going to come apart at the seams at some point in time. It has to come apart at the seams at some point in time. But the only way it's going to come apart at the seams at some point in time is the steady flow of one of us going through time, another one going through time, another one going through time, and hitting all the different agencies and just nailing these guys. You got to learn to say the words, "I love my federal government." I know it's hard to say. I know it's very, very hard to say. But if you think of it in terms of what you're dealing with here, you're dealing with a copyright. Your copyright is your identity. It's an unregistered copyright. That unregistered copyright goes back to your birth certificate. Why is it unregistered? Because it was never registered with the U.S. Copyright Office, although it was registered with municipalities, with Department of Commerce, with tons of agencies. Your birth certificate is all over the place. It's all over the place. It's been reissued many, many, many times. But the one place that's never been issued or recorded or registered was with the U.S. copyright. So it's an unregistered copyright. It's a protected copyright. Why it's protected? Because one of the reasons it's protected is because you're an idiot and I'm an idiot. We're both incompetents. Until we come forward as a living man, living woman, and take claim to that copyright and that birth certificate, then we're protected now. We're protected. Why? Because now we're protected under the 1790 Copyright Act, which is huge. That's your sestake right there. Everybody talks about the Vatican and how the Vatican is all that in a bag of chips. Yeah, it was all that in a bag of chips a few hundred years ago. But you've got so many people out there that because they've created 1,000 different mini Joannes, you've got 1,000 different Vaticans out there that want a piece of Joanne, but they're not the Vatican. It's Bank of America, it's J.P. Morgan Chase, it's Bill Dallas and Own It Mortgage, it's any other scumbucket out there that wants to abuse and knows the secrets of how to patent your identity and make money off your identity and steal from your identity and come back and take your house away and take everything you own and take your estate from you. It's funny. I can lay down 1,000 different patents. They could all be and there could be one patent from a Vatican, and there would always be somebody that'll say, "Oh, I told you it's the Vatican. It's the Vatican." No, the Vatican's only a part of it nowadays. They don't own you. They never did own you. Even if they did own you, even if the Crown Copyright owns you, all you got to do is disclaim it. Just claim your copyright back and you sever those ties. They don't have anything else to do with you now. We're not hardwired to these sons of bitches. Nobody's hardwired to them. I mean, that's what people get afraid, and people want to ask permission for things and sit there and say, may I change my name? Come on, seriously? I don't need anybody to tell me that my name is Kenneth William Dost. I'm a living, breathing man, and that my all caps name is not really me, but it is me. It is me. The Kenneth William Dost all caps name is me. It's my property. It's my possession. I'm taking it back.
That's interesting. You mentioned about fear and asking permission. There's so much social engineering going on today that absolutely frightens people. It's intended to. That should they reach out and take any kind of steps, such as you're suggesting, that trouble lays ahead. But it's really just a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding of the administrative process.
Well, it's not even so much the administrative process. It's a lack of understanding of what we're really dealing with here. And I don't mean that. And I've come out and I've been kind of critical. And I'm not trying to be, maybe I'm being a little bit, maybe being harder than I probably should. I come out and I've been pretty hard on people that have been pounding the 14th Amendment and things of those issues. And I'm not doing it to pick on anybody. I'm not doing that to be an asshole. I'm not doing that to pick fights with anybody. I'm just trying to say, listen, there's something else here that's going on, and you guys haven't seen it. You're not looking for it. You're not going far enough. If you want to find a solution for something, you better make sure that you find the damn root. You better make sure that you're at the basement floor and it goes no further. And of course, we know what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with what people would coin the matrix, right? That goes on forever. All these rabbit holes and rabbit trails. There are no rabbit trails. When you come at this from the proper point of view, proper standing, proper what's the word I'm looking for?
Status, jurisdiction.
Well, no, not jurisdiction. Just in fact and truth.
Okay.
When you go at this from in fact and truth, and you get to, and you find the facts and truths, and there's no rabbit trail. There's no rabbit trails to patents, copyrights, and trademarks. everything interloops. Everything's a circle. Everything comes back to where it began, you know. But the way that people look at things now, and this is because we've been so deceived into believing that it's been business ordinary course and it's a mortgage loan and blah blah blah, all this BS. You know, we're spinning ourselves in circles. We're driving ourselves insane. It breaks my heart to see people that are just to pull their hair out and just in a total tizzy. And I know because I've been there. I know what it's like to get to be in sheer panic and then have to get a filing done so you meet your deadline, and then the heartbreak you have when the court just totally ignores it. I mean, I know what that's like. I've been there. I know what that's like. And what I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to convey to people is you don't have to do that. You don't have to do any of that stuff. All you have to do is start looking at this from a different point of view and from the factual point of view. You know, in order to solve a problem, you've got to know what's causing that problem. Where's that problem emanate from? And everybody says, oh, it emanates from the Vatican. Again, going back to Vatican. Yeah, okay, fine. That's a couple of years ago, fine and dandy. I mean, it has some legs nowadays, but you know, it's a hub, it's a spoke. And the thing that you got to get through your head, and this is what makes you so valuable, and this is what should, if anything, this is what should empower the shit out of people, pardon my language, is that you've been sliced and fractionalized 1,000 times over. You're pretty damn valuable. Like I said earlier, if every fraction is sold at full value, you're 1,000 times more valuable than what you started out as. I mean, at the end of the day, really. And I guess what's proving here is proving that you have accounts. It proves that you have trusts out there, and it proves that you have value that somebody has stolen from you. And you know what the prima facie evidence of that is? That MERS Nations Bank agreement. That MERS Nations Bank agreement is gold. It's gold. It tells you right inside there. Right
That really makes me feel good. That really makes me feel good because I discovered a MERS agreement in my mortgage just a few weeks ago, and at first it was really shocking. My heart sunk, but hearing these words over and over, it completely changes the ball field for me. So thank you.
Well, think about that. I mean, think about. I'm assuming that everybody's on this call is familiar with the MERS Nations Bank Agreement. You've heard me talk about it over and over and over and over again. And if you're not familiar with it, please become familiar with it and become familiar with the terms and conditions that describe in there. And when you sit down and you dissect these terms, what it's saying that and this it replicates through the trademarks and the assignments, which we'll get to in a minute. But what it's saying in there is that you and I exist for the pleasure of bankers and attorneys, and that's what the borrower would do. Bullshit. Who in the world would rightfully give up their entire identity so that a bunch of criminal bar attorneys can make money off of you and leave you piss poor broke? Who in the right mind would ever do that? Nobody. But that's what they assume in this agreement, because it's all presumption. Everything's presumption. And when you're dealing with presumption, you deal with administrative. So there's a lot of damn presumption that we got to overcome here and rebut. And it's find the right agency to do it through and the right means and method to do it through. But the one thing that's clear is you're not going to do it through the state court system. Here's how it works. What they did was they, through the Fannie and Freddie document, through First American Title, through IBM, through Microsoft, through Mindbox, Brightware, they stole your common law, copyright, trademark, trade name, and all worldwide value title within a copyright recording to the U.S. Copyright Office in their code, in the case of Fannie and Freddie documents, in the case of Mindbox. They said that we are agreeing to relinquish our common law copyright to them. So they took it all right within the U.S. Copyright Office, and you're more than welcome to go and seek it out yourself and see it there. As a matter of fact, this stuff will all be part of the website, and you'll be able to it'll be all spelled out and made clear so that people can understand it. But it was all taken out through something called works for hire. So we're a work for hire underneath Fannie and Freddie. So what happens is we become an employee of the government, but at the time we weren't, because Fannie and Freddie weren't under receivership by the federal government. This is the beauty of this thing, how they laid everything out, just beautiful. So how everything comes back through the government and Treasury and so on and so forth, and it just exemplifies how the economy was intentionally built up as it was, and then collapsed intentionally as it was, and how TARP came in, Treasury came in as it was, just as they predicted, and how Fannie and Freddie was taken under receivership as it is, just as they predicted, and underneath all that, how Treasury has been manipulated to have to pay back the criminals that set this up. Treasury's not, I think, in my opinion, my humble opinion, Treasury got hoodwinked. Treasury had no clue what was coming because of these patented processes, and they didn't have a choice. I mean, TARP was something they really didn't have a choice of doing. They had no choice. They had no choice whatsoever because it's so blatant, and the true equity holders are you and I, that they really had no choice but to do what they did. And it has to kind of remain secretive to some degree, because if everybody knew and it all came out how fraudulent it was, the economy would truly, totally collapse. And it really would. So you have a situation here where you've got federal government intertwining with Fannie and Freddie, under which you've got this entity called MERS, under which there's this trademark of MERS, which is never disclosed to us, which references and goes into the MERS Nations Bank Agreement, which takes us right into the heart of the beast and the belly of the beast and what they really did to us. I don't think, in my heart of hearts, and I know Federal Reserve did, because Federal Reserve has protected MERS. Federal Reserve has always protected MERS. They've protected MERS time and time again. And if you research MERS underneath Federal Reserve, I forgot what it's called. I can't think of what it's called, but Federal Reserve went after some of the banks underneath MERS. One of the banks was HSBC, and they kind of restructured HSBC and MERS underneath that as the Federal Reserve, and it's all about information quality. And as we're talking about information quality and goodwill equality, well, guess what? That's what we're dealing with here. When we're dealing with trademarks, we're dealing with goodwill or company. So it goes right back to when you talk. If you go and buy a six pack of Busch beer, and you come home and you open it up, and there's a rat inside one of them. You know what are you gonna do? You're gonna take it back and you're gonna redeem the six pack, and they're probably gonna pay you some hush money, so and sue the piss out of them and drag them into the public light. It's the same damn thing here. It's the same exact thing, except the only problem is we were never disclosed that MERS was a trademark, which is a huge, huge thing. You've got breach of goodwill here. You got breach of trust. You've got so many criminal, unlawful acts going on here just by the very virtue of MERS not being disclosed. That little circle R never being disclosed to us in the Fannie and Freddie document. I mean, that's just. I mean, if you can imagine the magnitude of that is absolutely huge. You see that? You understand that, Joanne?
Oh, yeah. Several years ago, I recall when the individual came in and we closed the refi, there was nothing like that in the agreement. Absolutely nothing. And to find that inserted in a couple of years later, it just really exemplified a level of ignorance that I was not aware that I was in. And I know that's happening across the board to a lot of people. But I have to say, though, that coming across all your work and your material, that is educating me very, very quickly on what was done to me. So that gives me a lot of hope. It takes away a lot of fear. It gives me a lot of hope. So I didn't have very long where my heart was sinking, where I found out till I found your work. So I'm thankful for that, but there's a lot of other people who have suffered a lot of damages through this.
Yes.
And so I hope that they will get that remedy.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the point of all this. The point of this is to empower people. This system was designed to beat us down. It was designed to steal from us. It was designed to enslave us. It was designed to not be found out. I'm sure there's other people out there that found stuff like I have as well.
Well, this goes back to contracting and our ignorance of contracts. It really does, in a very big way. We don't read our contracts, and there's
but then
they're also very deceitful to insert something after you close.
Well, and to think of it, that was done before you ever. Well, see, in your case, you said it popped up a couple of years later. In my agreement, it was right there. It was right there in agreement. You know, it's right. I mean, MERS is mentioned 2 or 3 times in the Fannie and Freddie agreement, and that's it. And you nominated MERS for as a mortgagee for Own It Mortgage or Countrywide or whomever. You know, so what they did was they deceptively got you to throw away your goodwill and give it over to the originator scum that sets you up for failure. And see, these are all things that we can describe now. We could show these things without any problem. I mean, well, it's not that there's a problem showing it. It's just a lot of documentation to show it. There's so much of it. Own a mortgage. God, I have a field day. I mean, if you're countrywide, whoever, layman, get into their bankruptcies for God's sake. Man, I have a field day in owner's bankruptcies. I love it. I love it now because I understand exactly what those SOBs did. And they passed it right through the bankruptcy. Bankruptcies were owner's mortgage bankruptcy was and all those that followed. They were a patent. Their business model. It was planned. They intentionally crashed themselves. Why? Because there never was a mortgage loan, ever. Everything is a future purchase. So they turned what you thought was a legal ownership in land and a home. They lied to you. They put a cloud on title, number one, through MERS, and they gave you a leaseback transaction. They took your asset, they sold it into the marketplace, they pocketed the money, and then they leased the asset back to you. And your default is when you refuse. The default, when they call it, is when your refusal. When they default to you, it's actually what it means is that you're refusing to repurchase back the asset. But the whole point of it is it's not your business to repurchase it. It's the son of a bitch that sold it to you who has to repurchase it. But he's out of business now, so now it's thrown on to you. And because you didn't do it, and because you don't know, you don't understand that this is a lease transaction, they're throwing you out of your house, and then 6 months later, you get a tax statement, and you're scratching your head wondering, why the hell am I getting a tax statement? You're getting a tax statement because you never made your redemption. It's yours to redeem because you lent them the use of your asset and securities and lending and borrowing transactions to which you never got, to which, number one, you never got a spit nickel for, and number two, you had every right to redeem back your principal amount. Instead, these foreclosure mill attorneys have patented processes to come in to make sure that you and I never learn the truth here. And here's this thing going back to what I was talking about earlier. I understand. Here's the metal hits the road. I get it. I understand why there has to be a system, a certain secrecy in place, so that everybody doesn't come in and cash in their accounts. I get that. I understand that. Why? There's a reason for that. We talked about that with sheeple and how we're going through what we went through and sheeple having so on and so forth. I get that part of it. But here's the thing: if you're standing in a courtroom, I mean, if all things are equal, all things are right. If you're standing in a courtroom and you've got some attorney saying, I got an original negotiable instrument here signed and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I sit there and I throw down a MERS Nations Bank agreement and I call bullshit. Right then and there, it should end. It should be over. Okay, you got us. It's over. You're entitled to all the redemptions. You called the hedge bet because that's exactly what you did. It's you win. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. But it's not. What they do is they persist and they permeate this fraud, this lie, this deception that there's a mortgage loan. And that's where these little twip-ass sons of bees are going to get nailed. And they're going to get nailed. I promise you, foreclosure mill attorneys, we're going to nail you. I promise to God you guys are going to fry for this. Because you can't get away with this, because I can lay down patent after patent, SEC agreement after SEC agreement, trademark after trademark that says that we have every single right to come back in and reclaim our asset. And they're doing everything possible to prevent us from doing it. Everything. So what do we have to do? What we have to do is we have to go take it federal. And we can do it federal in several ways. You can do fiscal services, Treasury, IRS, of course. Fiscal services, absolutely, definitely, Treasury. But there's also SEC. There's also U.S. Customs and Border Protection. There's so many different government agencies, federal government agencies, where we're going to nail these little twerps, and it's going to come back and haunt them. That I promise. That I promise. And they're not going to be able to stop us from doing that. But now, in order to do those things, though, you've got to have an understanding of what we're dealing with here, and you've got to have an understanding. You got to be very sure in who you are, and you got to stand firm on that. You can't waver from that. I'm not talking about going out there and getting these license plates. And who's one person on my site has went out and got these exempt license plates and just got pulled over so many damn times. That's the reason you're getting pulled over. I mean, it's belligerent because it's not the right way to do it. Because we don't know the right way to do it. And this is going along the lines of the 14th Amendment and all that crap. We don't need to do any of that stuff. Understand what happened here. Understand what we're dealing with here. Remember that interstitial space we talked about? The universe? You know, that borderless, stateless internet where every time you go through a trading exchange, you're going through a port toll?
Yeah.
It's all U.S. Customs Border Protection.
Oh
It's all on the coast. It's all in the inland waterways. Yes, it's all
the whole landscape of commerce, the whole landscape of reality has changed completely.
But that's not, yes. But see, but you still have to domesticate you. You still have to be domesticated. And when they see what happens is when they created 1,000 mini Joannes, you don't exist on the land, Joanne. You exist up in cyberspace, up in virtual world. Okay, and in order for them to hide the money and hide the trust, hide the P, if you will, they have to take you foreign, and they have to take you to the Cayman Islands or the island of Guernsey or one of these other safe havens, right? To where they can hide the assets and hide the trust and through separately managed bank accounts and everything. And how they do this? They do this through the Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security is supposed to be protecting us. Department of Homeland Security has allowed more fucking fraud to go through than you could possibly imagine. It's a cesspool that leaks identity theft and leaks criminal crimes that are conducted by bankers and brokers and, most importantly, bar attorneys, because it all runs parallel with what's going on when they're changing our status, unlawfully changing our status with the Secretary of State and creating all these corporations and these LLCs. These LLCs run parallel with everything that's kept overseas. These LLCs are where our trusts are at, and these LLCs are managing our trust, if you will, as wards of the state. So we get doled out a little bit of money because now we're bankrupted, we're incompetent assholes, boobs, liars, deadbeats, cheats, right? While these guys, the same people that screwed us, are managing all those accounts. What are they doing? They're draining the spendthrift. They're draining our spendthrift trust, our birthright trust, and they're getting away with it because we're so in tune to thinking that this has to do with real property. It has nothing to do with real property, people. This has to do with the trespass upon your identity and the value and the money-making schemes that are being made off your 1,000 mini U's that they created. You are so damn valuable, you can't possibly imagine how valuable you are. It's mind-numbing. But we don't know any of this stuff because we still keep thinking this is a mortgage loan, and we allow these damn courts, we allow these damn pissant foreclosure mill attorneys to frighten us, and rightfully so. I mean, I get it. I get why people are afraid. I get it. I absolutely get it. I get it. But at some point in time, you got to put your foot down. You got to say enough's enough. No more. No more. I'm gonna drill you to the wall. I'm going to take you to the IRS. I'm going to turn you into the IRS. I'm going to do this to you at the SEC. I'm going to do this to you at Customs Border Protection. And you know what? They can't do a damn thing to stop you. Nothing. They can't do anything. Because once you put yourself back on the land, if you want to use that expression, and actually, let's talk about that for a minute. This idea of coming back to life. In a context, yes, it's right. It is right, but I mean, we got to update the terms. We got to update what we're really talking about here to the terms that we're really dealing with in the new 21st century. And this is through the Merged Nations Bank Agreement, through Commonwealth, through the laws of Commonwealths, to where federal or judges can take cognizance of federal law, and also Commonwealths, of course, the beeline into Admiralty Maritime. But I never agreed to this. You never agreed to it. Nobody ever agreed to this. We never agreed to become this. We were incorporated by reference. We were incorporated by proxy. We were incorporated by one man who should be hung 10 times over, 1,000 times over, a man named R.K. Arnold, CEO of MERS. He committed over 100 million. That's times two, because if you assume that a husband and wife is signing a mortgage and then their kids, so what are you talking about? 4 million people, or 400 million people maybe? He committed 400 million people to slavery by his one signature to a nation's bank agreement that resides underneath the MERS trademark, to which we were never, ever given any disclosure of. Imagine that.
It's a brilliant
Think about
scheme.
that, man. It's mind-numbing. It's
Yeah.
mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing. But what this all has to do with, it's all about stolen signature. It's not about real property. This is about a stolen. This is about, and because of the MERS Nations Bank Agreement, what they did, which you allowed them to do, which you didn't know you did, you allowed them to turn your signature into anything that they want, into any derivative they want, any kind of derived value, any kind of derived representation, whether it be Ken Dost or K Dost or Ken W Dost, or a series of a binary code that makes up a digital key. That's what we gave them permission to do. Of course, we didn't do that. They took it by incorporation by reference. Well, that's a huge thing right there. I rebut that. I revoke it. I don't want to call it fraud, though. I mean, it is fraud. I don't want to call it fraud, though. I want to say, okay, I caught you. I caught what you did, and I'm firing you because it's misrepresented to me, number one. Number two, you stole from my estate, and you're trying to steal from my estate. You're stealing from my kids' mouths by killing off my kids. It's called Generation Skipping Trust, and I caught you. And because I caught you, everything's going to revest back to me. I'm going to take all the bonds that I'm so-called a debtor bond, a debtor to, and I'm going to convert those to stocks. Or I'm going to liquidate those, perhaps, if I want to do that. Or I'm going to reinvest those. But it's my choice now because I caught you. So when we talk about getting redemption here, when we talk about the birth certificate issues, that's just a small issue to what we're really dealing with here. The birth certificate merely is it's kind of like your verification of identity, and you better damn that well not lie on it, because if you do, you're going to go to jail. But see, the reason why they never go to jail is because this little instrument that's standing between my living person and that all caps name and a certificate, and that's called a bar attorney. And that bar attorney has screwed us at every single interval. And then we can prove this. We can prove this 1,000 times over by picking up any one of these patented processes. I mean, and I think that's what I'm trying to do. What the kind of moral of this whole story is to say, hey, listen, we got three aspects here that I really want people to get into. And I realize it's going to take some time. I realize that there's some effort here. And I realize there's some confusion here. But it's kind of, think of it as kind of, it's the journey to you. And the journey to you runs through intellectual properties, which is kind of an oxymoron, actually. Because, you think of intellectual properties are not real. It's derived, it's made up, it's art, it's work of fiction, I mean, it's all kinds of things. But ironically well, not really ironically, because everything is kind of opposite from what it really is. We have to go through intellectual properties to discover who we are, and to claim ourselves and to claim our value. Our value is claimed through the intellectual properties that were stolen from us. So that all caps name that everybody keeps saying, oh, I don't want it, that's theirs, give it back, it's not ours. Bullshit, wrong. It is yours. And all the monies and all the credits and all the stocks that are underneath that are yours. You have all the right to take that. Nobody can take that from you. You have every right to take it. All you can do is claim it. Okay, now those are the things that we're dealing with here, and we're getting into, and working out and getting people involved with, and getting the things that we got to work on the private side, because it is private. It's because it's private. It can't be public. It's private. You can't mix public and private. But I guess the whole point of this conversation, and the reason why I call this conversation, was because I was perturbed. I'm perturbed with these bar attorneys, and I feel. I really feel for my friends out there. There's a lot of my people. There's a lot of friends out there that I have on Facebook, who I consider friends, who I've had conversations with, who I've even met with, who are going through some hard times right now, and these bar attorneys are ignoring these things. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to call this conversation today, is to hopefully empower you, and hopefully give you, not, I don't want to give people hope, because this isn't hope. This is a certainty. If you pursue it and you follow it, you can't lose. And yes, they're gonna fight back, and they're gonna do some things, and maybe you might lose your house, but you'll get it back. You'll get all your property back. And what's going to happen is, once you make a conversion, and that's what it is. We talk about illegal conversion. Yeah, they've made all kinds of illegal conversions, unlawful conversions. When you make your conversion from I hate to say living person, dead person. When you go in and you claim that hey, I'm alive here, and that's what I'm doing. I was killed off 7 years ago because I haven't worked in so many years. My career was killed off with the collapse, and I have devoted my time to doing this for the last 10 years. So by all rights, I'm literally dead. IRS doesn't even recognize me, for God's sakes. So I got to kind of reclaim my life in that respect and kind of bring myself current, so they have something to balance books against. So when you go into lay your birth certificate down, what you're really doing is it's not so much claiming yourself alive. You're kind of saying, listen, I'm the whole person, whole as in W-H-O-L-E. I'm the whole person, and I respectfully make demand for an accounting of all my slices out there, so that I can decide what I want to do with it. Do I want to liquidate them? Do I want to convert them to stock? What do I want to do with them? How do I want to deal with these things? Because at the end of the day, everything we're dealing with is three things. We're dealing with a stock, a bond, and a warrant that sits in between the two. And the stock, the bond and the stock, we got two kinds of stocks. You got common and preferred. The preferred is your corporate shares. Those are the ones that these Merrill Lynch and all these Wall Street guys stole from us and pocketed and sold time and again and repocketed. And then you've got the common shares, which are tied to the servicers, and then you've got the warrants, which are tied to the insurances, and you've got you got the bonds, which are tied to the insurances, and then you got the warrants that connects the preferred, that's the Wall Street guys, and the servicers, the common stock, back together again, so they can control us time and time again. So they got a whole system here that's worked out to screw us. Any questions, Joanne? Comments?
Well, can you talk a little bit more about the digital conversion?
I saw something in Oregon Code about a digital certificate that refers to it as born again. So what we have here is we're dealing with two kinds of life and death situations here. We're dealing with a system that threw out the paper, okay, and converted over to electronic, and then now it's going to converting to digital. So what we're dealing with here, and this is another thing we've got to deal with. When we make our conversions, we've got to deal with the situations of killing off our old paper selves. We love to do all these paper declarations and everything, but we don't realize that the minute they get it, they're going to convert it to an electronic format and then shred the paper document. So it's kind of an oxymoron, and it's kind of funny the way that works, because we're kind of doing something that's going to get destroyed anyhow. So what we want to do is we do want to convert ourselves into a digital format, and these are the things. See, these are things that were denied to us. We were not, I know I certainly wasn't informed, nor did I give permission that my signature be converted to an electronic document. As a matter of fact, I explicitly expressed my disdain with doing that, and even signed a waiver saying I do not condone, I do not consent to electronic documents or signature. As a matter of fact, the day of closing, we walked out of closing because they, as First American Title or Ticor, assumed that we were going to do an electronic closing. I said, I don't think so. I'll tell you what, you get the paper documents, and then we'll come back and sign the closing documents. And it delayed the closing for 2 days until the paper documents came back. Well, they didn't give a shit, because the minute we walked away, they converted it to an electronic signature, and that electronic signature became a business object, which is what they're selling time and time again.
So there's no way to avoid this. There's no way to avoid this. This is happening.
No, there's no way to avoid it. There's no way
it's
to
a
avoid
whole
it at all.
business,
What you
it's
got
a
to do
whole
is
business
claim it.
model change. It's a whole, the landscape of how we do commerce is completely changing.
Yes, the entire
Compared to
landscape changed. That's what they didn't tell. That's the whole secret. The secret sauce here is that, my God, we've got an opportunity here to make. We got an opportunity. We got a real opportunity here to make our lives better. To make I don't want to say make money, but to build value off of our mini me, off of our derived signatures, off our derived objects, off of patented processes, off of virtual world patents, that we can really make money for ourselves and make value for ourselves to make our lives better, but not only for ourselves but for our children. And they stole it from us. They stole it from us because they didn't disclose it to us. Instead, what they did was they took off with a digital object and they stole it and they went off and they went hog wild with it, making all kinds of money. And then they come back at the end of the day. What do when they bring you into court? What are they holding you to? They're holding you to that paper signature that you signed. It's such a fraud. It's ridiculous. I mean, I laugh. I'm sitting there in a courtroom with HSBC, this little pipsqueak attorney standing next to me a few years back, and he's sitting there making his claim. I'm just laughing at him. You gotta be kidding me. How can you sit there and lie, you little son of a bitch? How can you do that? Because it's the funny thing about it is, like, I got over 2,000 documents or 2,000 pages in my court docket of patents, of the Merged Nations Bank Agreement, all these things that nobody ever looked at. I could prove 1,000 times over that it's all fraudulent. Well, you know what? We can't. There's no way we can win. You know why? Because the judge you got to realize something. The judge you're dealing with, he's an administrator of royalties. So all those little mini slices out there that we're talking about, Joanne, all those little mini slices, what happens is when they haul your butt in the court and they're finding you, for summary judgment, they won't listen to a damn thing you're saying because it doesn't matter. They've got business obligations to administer the royalties, which is all those mini me slices out there. So there's no chance you can ever win. You can never, ever win because it's already slated against you. You've already lost.
Mm-hmm.
You've already lost because somebody else is taking claim to everything that you own. And they're coming back. Now, here's the fraudulent part. Well, it's all fraudulent, but here's what they're coming back with. They're coming back with, and they're saying, well, I got the signature. You signed this document. Yeah, I hand-signed it. And people are saying, don't deny it, you signed it. Deny it, you signed it. I didn't deny it. I said, sure, that's my signature. Of course it's my signature. But you sons of bitches went back and you guys converted to an electronic digital signature and you sold it 1 million times over, made all kinds of profits. I mean, now you're going to come back here and tell me that I signed that thing? Okay, fine, I signed it. Now where's all my royalties at? You stole my royalties, you guys. That's what they did. They stole everything.
So you're saying the answer then is that we have to be born again. I mean, there's a lot of overtones to this, from.
Well, isn't it kind of funny to think about? It's everything is the opposite. Everything is the opposite. Everything. There's an example earlier this morning, or earlier today. I thought of that. I can't think of what it is now. That illustrated it perfectly. But everything, if it's black, it's really white. I mean, everything that we're dealing with, we see the world through black eyes, let's say. We see the world through white eyes, but it's really black, and it really is. They've got us convinced that everything's white, but it's not. It's black. It's the biggest deception that this world has ever seen. And it's incredible how they've gotten away with it for so long. But the reason why they've gotten away with it so long is because of these criminal bar attorneys. Because these criminal bar attorneys have ensured that their banks and those that they're endeared to, and as you can say, the British Crown, that they win the game every time, and it's really beautiful the way they've slated it because it makes sense. If we were in ordinary times and everything was right with the world and all else was equal, and I was going through life, and Joanne, you were going through life, and you made a mistake, you made a bad financial mistake. And you've been facing foreclosure, and you rightfully, I made a mistake. You rightfully should be foreclosed upon. I mean, I agree with that. If you make a mistake financially and it's your mistake, you should pay for it. I get that. But that's not what happened here, is it? What happened here is they set everybody up for a mistake, but they turn it around at the end of the day and make it look like we're the deadbeats, liars, and cheats, so it makes everything acceptable under public policy so that they could steal our houses. But it's the opposite of that, because never was a mortgage loan. It's an investment contract.
We should have been
Everything's an
benefiting from
investment
that.
contract.
We should have been benefiting. We should have been benefiting.
That's right. So that's why when you see my little slides I'm putting out about MERS, that's one of my strategies. And one of the strategies I want my team to explore, and this website that we're going to do to kind of to advocate for this, is to educate the sheeple out there and say, hey, before you sign that mortgage loan, make sure that you have that title agent or that closing agent, make sure they disclose to you the MERS Nations Bank Agreement. Make sure you've got all disclosures. If they insist that they have, and you don't have that MERS Nations Bank Agreement in front of you, then you go file a complaint against them for fraud, because they're concealing it from you. Because what they're concealing from everybody is they're concealing an investment contract. That MERS Nations Bank Agreement is an investment contract for you. It should be for you, because it's your identity that they stole. It's your identity that's being valued. But what they did was, instead of valuing it for the good of you, they valued it to the death of you, so that they could steal your estate. Because it never was a mortgage loan; it's a lease. So here's the thing. Okay, wait a minute. If this was never a mortgage loan, let's see. You took my asset, you sold it, you made money on it, you pocketed it. But then I got this lease agreement here. Then what are my payments going for? And why am I not getting anything back?
Exactly.
Wait a second here. Something's wrong. See, we're not asking those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not right for us to ask those questions in the courtroom anyhow, because the courtroom's not going to listen to us, because, like I said, the courtroom's already fixed.
Mm-hmm.
It's already fixed against us. They've already got us fixed as being a deadbeat, liar, or cheat. They've already got us abandoning our property through probate filings that they're filing behind our back as our principal. Mm-hmm. Using our name, our identity, that we're willing donator to abandon our property. Well, I didn't willingly donate my property. Well, it says right in the Fannie Freddie document that you're a donor, that you're donating your property. We agreed to all these things, but the problem is we didn't have the whole ball of wax. We didn't have 75% of that contract, which is really that MERS Nations Bank Agreement, an investment contract that they hid from us.
I wonder how many people here tonight, Ken, have read the MERS Nation Bank Agreement.
I'm thinking that everybody's on his phone probably has. I'm hoping that they have. And if you haven't, you really got to get a copy of it, and you got to really read it. It's very important that you understand that. It's very important you understand what your position is in life and what you are in life. It's very important to make that distinction between life and death. Like I said, I'm not giving legal advice here. I can't give legal advice here. I'm a lawyer, thank God. I'm just giving practical advice. I just want to be practical. What I want to implore people into, and it's very hard to do on Facebook, and that's why we're taking everything into a website, because we're organizing it. We're putting it into groups. We're putting it into a format that people can understand. Because I understand the things I'm talking about. I understand that I'm talking real fast too, and I'm sorry, but that's just my nature. I try to slow myself down, never works. I implore people to step back and value themselves, value who you are. Don't let these people get you down. Don't let these people degrade you. I know it's hard not to, but you've got to stand up. You've got to put yourself on the ground. You have to put your feet on the ground, and you've got to take the time to learn the things that I'm talking about, because it's for your benefit. It's for the benefit of your children. I promise you, you will not regret it. You won't. You won't, because once you understand the value of your life and the value of who you are and how you relate in these games that are being played, and you really realize that, hey, wait a second here, I'm not a debtor. I'm the investor. Holy shit, this is good. Once you realize these things, that empowers you. And then the next part is getting remedy for that. Well, the remedy for that is we start going through the agencies, we start looking to the federal agencies, and we start relying on the federal agencies. Why? Because the federal agencies are there to protect us if we come in our proper standing. Remember, the federal government, the states are autonomous, and the federal government, yes, federal trumps state, but federal can't come in and trump state and thump on state unless there's a damn good reason for them to thump on the state. Well, guess what? We got about 100 million damn good reasons. Do we not?
Yes, we do.
You know, so I mean, we've got, you know, what we got to do is we got to clear. This is war. And this is a nonviolent war, but this is war. This is something that all our problems, everything that we face.
Someone's got a
CPS.
microphone that they're
Somebody's
breathing into.
breathing really
Can you
close.
please mute yourself? Thank you.
No vulgar crawls, please.
We're trying to keep it clean here. Come on.
No. You know, we have a good opportunity. We have a good opportunity to better ourselves and to really advance ourselves and really do stuff for ourselves. But we can't rely on. We have to rely on ourselves. We have to rely on our own intuitions and our own ability to learn and our own willingness to learn. And we have to fight back. We've got to deny the negative feelings that are being put on us, that are being driven upon us. And I know it's hard to do. It's very hard to do, and I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have the world against you, and when you're fighting these things. I mean, you've got family that abandons you. You got nobody cares about you. It's tough. I mean, but that's what they're designed. That's the evil part about this thing. That's the evil part about this thing. We're not dealing with, you know, people talk about God and they talk about the Bible and ecclesiastical stuff. And I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to put it down, but I'm saying it's bullshit. They don't care. They don't care about how you're hurting. They don't care about what your beliefs in God are. They don't give a damn, because we're not dealing with people here. We're dealing with evil persons. We're dealing with evil bar attorneys. We're dealing with criminals here. They don't give a damn. All they care about is what the bottom line is. Everything's a number to them. Everything's a code to them. They've been so depersonalized from what this really is. The closest personal contact is between you and the foreclosure mill attorney that's foreclosing upon you. And you know what? This idiot that's foreclosing upon you, I guarantee you, he doesn't know a damn thing that we're talking about. He has no clue what we're talking about. You know why? Because he's a young guy, fresh out of college. He's got so many damn college loans that he's got to pay off, and he's sniffing around to impress his principals, and his principals are using him as an expendable asset. And you are. And I promise you, you foreclosure mill attorneys, you guys are expendable. You guys are gonna go to jail. You're gonna get disbarred, and and it's all gonna be. And you're protecting your principal, and you have no idea what you're doing. As a matter of fact, if any of you guys are listening, do the research it yourself. See what you're involved with.
Yep.
See what you're involved with, because you're good. Huh?
I said
they're going to start holding back.
And their bosses are going to walk away and say, you know.
No, their boss is not going to walk away. You know why their boss is not going to walk away? Because we're going to slam the patents up their ass.
Oh, dear. 2x4 coming.
You know, this is nothing. I mean, they're stuck. They're done with. If we do this right, and I think we're going to do this right, I believe we're going to do this right, we plan this properly, and we execute this properly, there's nowhere for them to go. The bottom floor, the bottom roof, whatever you want to call it, is the trademark. Not the trademark, the copyright. That's the bottom floor level. They can't go any further than it. They stole it. They intentionally trespassed upon it. The evidence is everywhere. The evidence is clear in their copyright recordings, in their trademark assignments, under which they buried our unregistered copyright in pools of financial goods called loans.
You know what's really
trademark
funny?
Goods. Huh?
I said, you know what's really funny? I'm betting that all those hot lawyers, I bet you they have mortgages. No, they have the same thing going on.
Well, the young guys might. I mean, the young guys have no clue what's going on. I'm pretty convinced that Matthew Booth, the HBSBC attorney, which I promise you, Matthew, if you're listening, you're going to be flipping burgers at McDonald's in a year. If I have anything to do with it, you'll be in jail. You will. They have no clue what's going on. They're clueless. And I tried cluing them in, but they won't listen. They can't listen because they're endeared. They're endeared to. I don't want to get vulgar, so I won't. But they're enjoined to their principals to make sure that because they got all these school loans they got to pay off. They can't lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
And all they are is they're minions. They're cheap minions for their principals. And if I sound like I hate the bar attorneys or the foreclosure mill attorneys, I do. I do hate them. I can't stand them. You know, I mean, so if you got, I'm not. I'm kind of the opposite. Everybody, you got people out there that come against the federal government. I love my federal government because I know my federal government, when I'm properly situated, is going to protect me, and they're going to go after these guys, and they're going to take these guys down. They're going to ensure that I get all the assets that were stolen away from me. By whom? By vermin. By these foreclosure mill attorneys. By these patent attorneys. Those are the vermin. Yes, I hate them. I can't stand them. They're scum of the earth. They have destroyed the lives of billions of people. And when you get into the research, you get into the documents, you start seeing the documents in a more presentable manner than you can possibly do on Facebook. When you start,
you are making such a coherent presentation, backed up with so much research and proof. How can anyone disagree with you? Has anyone disagreed with you? And if so, what are they actually saying?
Hello.
You know what? Nobody, excuse me. Nobody is, oddly enough, nobody's really come after me. Nobody's really messed with me. And if anybody does, I can soundly defeat the argument because I can just lay down facts. There's really no argument to any of this. There isn't. There's no argument to it. I mean, that's why I'm surprised when I think that's part of the reason for this conversation is to hopefully, I'm empowering people that are fighting, like my one friend up in Washington, one friend down in Texas, and one friend down in California, who are having a hard time right now fighting these foreclosure mill attorneys that aren't listening. So hopefully I'm empowering them and others to be able to present themselves to these people, to get them to understand, hey, don't mess with me. You're messing with the wrong person. You best back away because I'm going to nail you. I'm going to get you in the end. Get off my back. You're fired. Because we're for the arrogance of these attorneys is and their knowledge level, is incredible. The arrogance level, obviously, but now you're throwing them off with this MERS, and it has thrown off quite a few attorneys. Quite a few attorneys have been thrown off and thought, oh, shit, man, what's going on here? Because they don't understand the MERS Nations Bank Agreement, so they threw them off. But the ones that are kind of just ignoring it and saying, well, it doesn't mean anything, stand up, you guys, stand up and you fight it because it means everything. And however you got to instill it into these guys, instill it. And if they still don't get it and they still come and take your house, fine, let them take it. Let them take it because at the end of the day, you're going to clean their clock. Actually, you're not going to clean their clock. The federal government's going to clean their clock. They can't win. There's no way they can win. They can't. They can't. I mean, when you stole my identity without my knowledge, without anything. 1790 copyright. But when the living man comes forward, everything revests back to him. And in the event that others have profited off of that person's copyright without the express written permission of that person, then it's damages times 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't give a damn if it's 2017. All the revisions that have happened, and there's been a lot of revisions under copyright. There's a lot of different variations of it and everything, and they try to dance around it. I can tell you right now that one of the places where our mortgages are buried is in classic 40s music, in lyrics. Don't even ask me to explain it. It's too hard to explain.
Wow.
But where they bury us, I mean, they bury us. We've been sold off in so many different places. If I put a value on all of us, we're probably all worth about $1 billion. I mean, we're worth so much money because they've sold us off in so many different kind of converted forms. And you think, oh my God, how do I get this? How do I end this? How do I end this? Well, you end it by going to federal, laying down that birth certificate, not because of, not to say, oh, I want my debt bonds, or I'm doing this. Get rid of all those old ideas. Get rid of that shit. Get rid of those old ideas. Get down to the fact what you're really doing. What you're really doing is verifying your identity of who you really are. You're making your claim. This is me, and I remove all powers of attorney. I'm the attorney, in fact. I'm the durable power of attorney. Nobody else has any power of attorney over me. That's what you're doing when you do that birth certificate. That's the power of that. It doesn't have anything to do with all that other shit. All the other stuff that's out there is not necessarily wrong, but it's not necessarily right either. It's kind of in between. Get your entry ticket to getting access to your accounts and getting access to the accounts that you're due. And it's not only, and we could prove the accounts. Why? We could prove it by the Merged Nations Bank Agreement, number one. We could prove it then by pulling out the SEC agreements and the patents and following the chain of title and not title of your signatures and how they've translated through. And they have all the records on this stuff. Now that you go in and you've presented yourself, who you are, they've got to give it to you. Everything vests back to you. 1790 copyright.
It's very empowering, Ken. You wanted to keep the call down to 90 minutes, and so we're at that mark. Are there any other things that you'd like to cover before we close? I mean, we'll stay here as long as you like, but I did want to give you the opportunity to get some information in or some remarks in about the website and what people can expect when that's all finished and ready to launch.
Well, what we want to do with the website, like I said, my people on the website are probably pretty pissed at me because I didn't okay this call with them, and I probably should have. So I apologize to them for that. I shoot from the hip. That's how I am. I'm very honest and I'm very blunt, and I just my very emotional in the sense of I want people to understand we can win these things, and I want to do whatever I can to get people to understand and try to get them to start thinking in terms of where we need to go with these things, and empower them. The website is going to it's going to be a lot of information. It's going to take a lot of information that's within Facebook, and it's going to consolidate it into more doable, and compartmentalize it into doable sections that are interlinked with links and it tells a storyline so that people can come on there and they can understand how a patent functions and walk them through what it means to have our identity stolen in copyright. What does it mean? What documents are there? So the whole site is going to be an educational tool, a training tool to educate people on who they are and what we're really dealing with here. And it really is kind of, it's not the greatest word, but it's the word that they use. It's so that we can teach people to become sophisticated to the knowledge that we were intentionally made ignorant of. So that's really one of the goals of the website, is to do that. And the second goal of that is for solutions and the pathway to solutions, to real remedy through various sources or various pathways that will be that are shown to be proven true, and actually opening up other pathways. And I also want to be. I hope it's going to be a springboard and a launch port for a movement. I would like to see a movement come out of this that spreads globally. With beer mugs or hats and all kinds of T-shirts and stuff, whatever we can, kind of like anonymous to some degree, but platforms which you can springboard to the global marketplace, not marketplace, but global platform, so that people can become empowered and we could start changing the world. I think that what we have here and where we're going, and what we know as to the facts and truths, we have a real opportunity here to make a big difference for ourselves, for our children, and to change things. I don't think we can change the world. I don't have those kind of illusions, but I think that I think that we can really have a good effect on things here. So that's what I hope is going to come from the website.
Hey, Ken, one of your crew, John M, is here. He said to let you know that he's on the phone just in case he can support you with information about the website.
Put John on. Put John on.
Okay.
If you can.
John, can you unmute yourself? Let's see here. I'm looking down the list to find him. There's a lot of phone numbers. He has to get his mic. Okay, he said hang on.
Okay. Yeah, I want him to introduce himself because I don't know if he wants to be known or not, so I'll let him introduce himself. But yes, put him on.
I think he can take a couple of questions, or address a few that have been written into the text chat box concerning email addresses and signing up for the website and information like that.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
And as far as the audio goes, there have been a couple questions about that. I will pass over possession of the audio video to Ken. It's copyrighted, trademarked, so he will be doing as it suits his agenda for the website and so on. So
Well, yeah,
will
to
not.
go to the team and work in that way.
Hmm.
Jono?
Okay, he's on his way. He said he's on his way.
Okay, all right. I'll talk for a few minutes while he
And
gets there.
yeah, don't please anyone don't email me any addresses. That's going to be for you to send to John M. As far as I understand. So I won't be able to do anything with your email addresses.
While we're waiting on John, can I chime in for 10 seconds?
Who's
Sure.
speaking?
This is Steve. I've had my hand up for a while.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, man. I just want to, I agree with you, Ken. I think we talked a year or two ago. It is tough to go in the court and battle. I mean, I was lucky enough to find a Yale guy. And how do I say it? I'm still actively battling, but I think I'm one of the few that have I got 2 class actions and they're afraid of me. So, my one attorney's facing 850, a large, top 100 law firm in the nation. So it's tough,
Wow.
but it is doable.
Yeah. It's doable, yeah. It's doable, but it's very. I think that as these avenues open that we're dealing with here, I think it's going to make it a lot easier on the court side. Because the court side is going to collapse. It's going to have to.
It is, and I'm getting close to that. If anybody's been to my website, you would see how they're just coming up with obfuscation, deceptive, and just bullshit answers. So I think that's
right. See, and I think the problem is that I remember talking to you. I remember the conversation we had. And the problem was, how do you introduce patents? How do you get patents in? Because that's what destroys them. Have you been able to do any of that?
I'm actually destroying them based on who this current servicer is, and you just have to go to my website, and I got about $200,000 worth of my Yale's briefings up there. So
okay.
It's complex. You're right. It's hard. What law firm would go against 850 attorneys, right? Or individuals.
Exactly.
They won't. You don't have a chance.
Well, and another thing too is a lot of these law firms, they have divisions for patent attorneys and intellectual property. So right there, you've got a conflict of interest.
You're right.
So well, depending on which side they're on, of course. But yes, I do agree with you. I think you can get it from the law at the law side. But yeah, you're right. It's very difficult, and you can't do it yourself. There's no way you can. You have to have a law firm behind you to do it. And the difficult part is how do you get patents introduced? How do you get these things introduced?
Hey, Steve, can we get that website?
Sure. I don't want to steal. I don't want to steal Ken's, but it's free. It's free information, and I'll post it in there. But the main thing is, how do you move forward? And I just happen to got a multimillionaire guy that's taking this on for fun for the last 4 years.
For fun.
And he's from Yale, so he loves going against intellectual people, and they're bringing in appellate specialists, and so I have 2 class actions against Select Portfolio Servicing currently active. So I'll put it in the chat. But that's all I wanted to say is it's tough, and it's in 4 years and 3 active federal lawsuits. I can demonstrate that it's not a walk in the park. They try to beat you on technicalities. My website's going to walk you through what they do, and I put a lot of depositions and some other stuff up there that it's free. Download it. But I'll post it. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve, and good luck to you for the rest of your work.
This is John. Can you hear me?
Jono.
Hey, how you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good. And I just want to let you know you've done an incredible job tonight. Like Joanne said, I mean, the cohesiveness of your diatribe, if you will, has just been fantastic. So I hope everybody's learning a lot and getting a lot out of this. On the new website, I can't announce what the name's going to be just yet, just for security reasons and stuff. But if everybody wants, if people want to send me an email, they can send me an email at OJOHN as in Nancy, M as in Mary, ojohnm at gmail.com, and just provide your email address. I'll put you on the list, and everybody that's on this webinar will we'll make sure we give you a special notice and kind of an advance notice from compared to the masses, if you will. And there is not going to be any masses. When I say masses, it's just our private Facebook pages and things like that that we're going to invite to the new website. But yeah, and the site's going to be fantastic. We just completed a totally custom document library. Ken's been uploading hundreds of documents. A lot of the documents are just, if you're interested and you want to go see these patents and read through them, they're there if you need to. So a lot of, there'll be a lot of forms and example letters and filings and things like that. But we're also going to be creating a video training program, a step-by-step guide, lots of stuff. There's going to be a forum, so you'll have that access as a member. You'll have access to Ken, myself, and the team to be able to ask questions, interact on a day-to-day basis. If you guys have been following Ken on his Facebook page, Ken's very active, so it's not like he shies away from answering questions or helping people out. And so, but it's just like Ken was saying, it's just going to be we're going to provide the information in just a much more cohesive manner, much better organized. And the beauty of it is,
and I think the videos are important. The videos are important. Like we're talking about doing like little 5-minute vignettes.
Vignettes, yeah.
To kind of walk through a patent, because let's face it, patents are freaking boring. I mean, they're not exciting and they're hard to follow. So, I mean, like John said, the patents will be there. There's dozens of Bank of America patents there and J.P. Morgan Chase patents. So there's patents there, and people are going to use them. People are going to want to use them in filings and whatnot. But as far as reading through them all, I mean, God, there's nothing exciting about a patent. I mean, it's just not exciting. But when you understand what's behind them and how they're functioning, the best way to do that, I think, is going to be like a little 5-minute vignette, if you will, to kind of walk people through that, so you can kind of bypass all that. But the information's there if you want to refer to it, and if you really want to delve into it, it's going to be there. And it's going to be in an organized fashion.
And there will be a
handful on Facebook.
Sure. And there will be a handful of, 20 to 30 minute instructional videos, but primarily, like Ken said, we're just going to do like just a few minute vignettes and things like that, and just quick explanations of things. So, but there'll be a lot of them. So you can access them if you're interested, but you'll definitely want to access the instructional videos. That's for sure, because that's where Ken's going to really walk through things and, provide detailed analysis and detailed step-by-step instructions and stuff.
Hey, John, I've got a question.
Sure.
If anybody wants to support the work that you're doing at the website via, donations or their time or their skill or anything of the sort, what can they do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you actually brought up a good point, because, I've been asked we've leaked out the information about the website coming just a little bit here and there. And, people want to know, okay, because so many other people, they learn this stuff, or they think they learn this stuff, and they put a training program together and sell it for $1,500. We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
No, but what we are going to do is we are going to try to cover our expenses. Mm-hmm. So we're talking, the price of a meal out, going out to dinner one night or something like that to cover the expenses. So, but everything.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. There's so much work.
The thing that bothers me the most is you got the Kurt Kallenbachs out there and the people out there that put these packages out there. And again, this is what inflames me, is you've got somebody that throws it, and I've used this analogy before. You got somebody that throws a dart at the wall, and it sticks on the wall, so everybody kind of flocks to it, but nobody knows what the hell's going on behind the other side of the wall. So what happens is you get this situation where all of a sudden it may have worked for one person, but now it's not working for anybody else. And worse yet, some people are going to jail for it. So I mean, and these are the things that drives me absolutely freaking bonkers. And that's not what's going to happen here. What's going to happen here is going to be bona fide solutions and remedies that are going to stick and are always going to stick, because they're well researched and well documented.
That's right. And the fact is Ken has spent thousands and thousands of hours doing this research, and he does deserve to get a little something back for that.
Absolutely.
But and there's other people that have done a lot of work, like William Schrout's done a lot of work, but you go to his site and he's got 200-300 books or videos or whatever. You don't know what to buy. And so if you started to purchase his information, you'd end up spending at minimum hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, just trying to figure it out with him. And so,
still people don't have an idea of, again, that's still a dartboard on the, still a dart on the wall that nobody knows what's going on behind it, and that's the problem, and that's what we're going to eliminate here. I mean, that's all going to be eliminated. I mean, this is going to be as transparent a site as can be with all the information there, and no walls in place except for the firewalls, but no walls in place to really, because people are afraid. I mean, people are afraid to take any action now because worse one day, or people are getting thrown in jail, and see we're going to eliminate all those things because we're going to detail out the factual basis and truths behind these things, and so people in the training section, so people understand what they're getting into and why they're doing it and for what reason, and it's more so you're going through this thing empowered.
Exactly. Yeah, because you don't want to go through this process. I mean, theoretically, Ken could just put out a teaching of the steps of remedy, but I mean, I think that would be a bad way to go. I think people have to invest.
But be responsible.
Exactly. Be responsible, have an idea of what they're doing, so there's rhyme or reason to their actions. And but the main thing is, and Ken's taught me this, is that we're coming at this as a friendly. We're coming at this on the side of Treasury, on the side of the IRS, if you will. And so we're not coming at them in a hostile manner. Yeah, we're a little bit hostile to the corrupt bankers and things like that, but we're not.
As we should be.
Yeah, but we're not coming at it hostile to the necessary government entity, because that's the last thing we want to do is, have them coming after us, and it's just so much better.
Well, and we've learned that we don't have to be. I mean, that's exactly the whole point of this. I mean, when you get down to the end of the day, at the end of the day, you're dealing with a lot of misconceptions out there that are decades in the making, but unfortunately have not fully been researched to their ends. And so when you research this to the ends, you realize that, hey, wait a second here. We need the federal government. The federal government's our friend if certain conditions are met. I mean, if we're in proper standing, if we do this and do that and make sure that we're properly positioned. And then they're our friends because, hey, it all comes down to the copyright. And whether we like it or not, we've got, under the 1790 Copyright Act, we've got a deal basically with Treasury. But that's not a bad deal because they get a little bit, so let them have their bit. We get a bit too, but we also get their protection. And that protection is getting the IRS to go after the bad guys.
Exactly.
I've got two more questions.
Well, you have three more now.
Okay.
Four more.
Well, one of them has been asked repeatedly, so I just want to get that one on the table, and that has to do with the audio of tonight's call. John and Ken are going to, as soon as this downloads, probably tomorrow, I'll be able to get that to you. But can you just address that question as to when the audio will be available, or maybe if not, if it's not available sometime in the future, because you're still constructing the website, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's very near phase one completion. So we're going to be kind of like launching in a couple of different phases, but the initial phase is coming very soon. So we're just talking a matter of days. It's not weeks or months or anything like that. And we're going to provide ultimately a couple of options for people. People will be able to just get access to the video training program itself, and they'll also be able to access like a monthly membership. The monthly membership, like I said, is just going to be a few bucks. It's not going to be expensive at all.
No.
And even the video training program is not going to be expensive. It's not, I wouldn't even describe it as, we haven't set a final price on it yet, because we're trying to keep the price down as far as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, it's not going to be hundreds of dollars or anything like that.
No, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, people have put out enough money and have gotten disappointed. And as far as my word on that, my thought on that is for all the Callenbacks and people out there, I would throw them in jail as far as I'm concerned. Either refund them money back or throw them in jail. I mean, it's ungodly what people are, and it's sad because to me it's like taking advantage of people. People are desperate right now. People are afraid. But at the same time, people are desperate. And to put out $650 or something for something that doesn't work is ludicrous. And it should be criminal. I don't give a damn what good nature it's in. It's not good nature if you're charging somebody $650 for something that doesn't work or works one day and doesn't work the next day. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, I was looking at the prices of all these different programs out there, and there's no guarantee. Most people won't even put their name behind the program. Everybody knows who Ken is, Ken Dost. I'm John Messmer, Messmer. We have no problem putting our names behind the site and what we're doing. And but yeah, and so my thinking was, and I know Ken agrees, is like I want what we provide to be at least 25% or less of what anybody else is charging. So
yeah.
I just want it to be affordable. You got to charge a little bit because people don't value what they get for free. It's amazing how that works. But but I also want to make sure that even the people in the worst circumstances can get access to Ken, can get access to the documentation and the information, and to be able to move forward.
Well, I know John and I haven't really talked about this, but we kind of haven't in detail. But I want this to really be a springboard to a movement here. And I think what we're doing here, I think that I know what we're doing here is I'm not going to disillusion myself to how big this is. This is huge. And this is a huge thing that we're talking about here. I mean, when you get down to brass tacks and you get down to what this really is about, I mean, this is global reaching. So this is a great opportunity here to have a platform in place that drives a movement, and hopefully will drive a movement that grows.
I want to follow up with another question based on that. You're speaking about reaching, excuse me, large communities of people. Will you be offering any type of interface engagement program, such as a community posting board or anything like that, where people can come and they may not understand necessarily right up front everything that they're viewing, but they can at least post questions and interact and meet other people? Is there any kind of thing like that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm working on as we speak. I've been going through a bunch of different forum software, trying to pick out the what I think is the best fit forum. I'm not going to develop the forum from scratch when there's so many good forum tools out there. So yeah, there's going to be a forum. People will have access to Ken and the whole team,
Fantastic.
and each other, because what Ken's getting at is that we want to create a community. And a community can support each other. And after somebody's, been following along and and participating for a month, 2 months, 3 months, however long, they're going to be able to start answering questions themselves. And the more you.
What thought have you given? This is really important to me. What thought have you given to your vetting process so that you can ensure that you have the right kind of community building there?
Yeah, I've got a tool which I can't say what it is because I had to sign an NDA. And it's a vetting tool, and it's a vetting tool that I'm having a brain freeze up at the top of my head. John McAfee developed, and so it's people say it's at an FBI level vetting in terms of what the FBI would do on an initial screening online, and so
excellent.
So that we're going to be using that and hopefully that'll work out well. And if anybody knows John McAfee from, McAfee antivirus software.
Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's an incredibly smart guy and has great tools.
Well done.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Those were my two questions.
Okay, Ken, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned mirrors quite a lot, and it doesn't apply here. The U.S. Constitution does not apply here. I don't know how many other Canucks are on the call, but there's tens of thousands and probably more of us that are fighting the system, fighting foreclosure. And I don't care about winning in court. I don't even want to go to court ever again. All we want is to access our exemption fund or the set-offs or the money that's in our bond. Mine, for example, which I researched, has $20 billion in it, and I'm losing my house. Like what?
Well, that's the beauty of the beauty of that MERS Nations Bank agreement is, one, it's prima facie evidence that you were never a debtor to begin with.
Ken, MERS does not apply here. Maybe
yes, it does. Yes, it does.
don't-
The MERS Nations Bank Agreement is prima facie evidence that you were never a debtor. It's prima facie evidence that you were that there's intentional misrepresentation. It's prima facie evidence that this is all about common law copyright and a theft of identity. That's what this is about. The Fannie Mae document is a horseshit document that
Ken,
masks a mortgage loan that doesn't exist.
Ken, wait. Do you know that I'm in Canada? MERS is not here. MERS
is not. MERS functions through Canada. Believe it or not, it does function through Canada on the backside of Bank of New York Mellon.
Okay. Tell me, are they called CMHC here? Because every document I've looked through, and I've looked through RBC, I've looked through Bank of Montreal, Toronto Dominion Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, you name it.
Go through Hub International, through Bank of America, Bank of Montreal, through Nova Scotia, back through Bank of America, back through the back end of Bank of New York Mellon. It's all done through trademarks. Everything is all the security agreements. All the security agreements pertain to loan documents, to identity, to the transfer of identity, to the sale of customer list, to the derivative creations of financial instruments. Is all done through trademarks, everything. And those trademarks all go back to the MERS Nations Bank Agreement, or whatever would be the agreement that would be consistent with through Canada. Canada, there is no border between Canada and the United States. It's a borderless countries, and what they're doing is they're bouncing back income trust through Canada, back through the United States, and everything goes through Bank of New York Mellon and then through DTC.
Everything you just said, I said to Judge Farrington at one of my many.
And he discounted everything you said.
Well, he dismissed, and this surprised me. I am now writing a letter to the Queen, but you Americans will have a laugh about that. But I'm. Judge Farrington dismissed my copyright, which I don't know how he can do that because I've got it.
I don't know how I can either.
Because I've got it registered with SEPO. He dismissed my enduring power of attorney. He dismissed my note of interest in my property. He just dismissed me.
They're going to dismiss all that stuff because they're operating administratively, and they're administrators of royalties, and those royalties are the copyright royalties and trademark royalties that are deriving from all these stolen, unregistered copyrights that have been created in the derivatives and underneath trademark goods, and because these bar attorneys. Because these bar attorneys were brilliant enough to hinge everything back. Because they realized years ago, what we have going on right now would be called secret liens. Years ago, which the courts castigated. Courts hated secret liens, but now the courts love secret liens. Why? Because they're in the payoff stream. So that's what they did.
You're preaching to the choir. I don't argue.
Exactly.
But they have the power of enforcement. I don't think they'll allow me to walk into court with an Uzi, although that was certainly.
But this is why we always say.
I don't think about that happening.
But this is why we always say you never want to step foot in court too, and you want to exhaust all your administrative remedies and go at it from the private side, because when you're in court, you're on the public side, and you need to get on the private side.
Well, that's another thing too. These courts in America. I mean, they're not operating, and they don't have subject matter jurisdiction because they're operating in international admiralty maritime, and they're administrative courts. And the very fact that what they're doing is, and I haven't raised this too. So if you raise it at the very beginning, which I didn't do, and many people don't because they don't really understand this, how the courts are functioning. They don't have subject matter jurisdiction. Rightfully speaking, none of these cases should be brought to court at all until all administrative processes are exhausted. And we have plenty of administrative remedies to exhaust. We don't know about them though, because they're operating behind our backs, and they're operating in the shadows of a commingled public-private system that the bar attorneys are running, and that's the problem.
I'm going to start. Am I muted? No, I'm not. I'm going to start really combing your Facebook page with a fine-tooth comb, Ken. But if you could post more stuff that, no disrespect to my friends from the South, but I mean more stuff that's applicable up here because I got to tell you, at least you have the Constitution to protect you. You want to see kangaroo court? In court, I decimated the counsel for the plaintiff. I said, Your Honor, are you really going to allow this counsel for the plaintiff to traffic in persons in your courtroom? He just laughed at my statement. No, that's
and I don't doubt it. They did do the same thing down here, and yeah, so those things will be built into the website. And as a matter of fact, the one company that runs that really runs the gamut here, as far as Canada, United States is concerned, and over through Nova Scotia, through Germany, through England, through Scotland, Wales, and where else? A couple other places is Mindbox, is McDonald Detweiler. McDonald Detweiler is a Canadian company. Its main headquarters is I think it's either in Quebec or British Columbia. And McDonald Detweiler, if you're familiar with McDonald Detweiler at all, they're a pretty frightening company. They have about 60% of United States defense contracts. They build the drones, and they also build all the spy satellites and surveillance systems. But they're also in insurance and land transactions. And these land transactions are all United States transactions, all Canadian transactions that are all shipped overseas and sitting over in a database in Hungary. And now it's in Luxembourg. And so, I mean, these are things that we can easily tie together, and these are things that we have tied together, and that these are things that are difficult to see on Facebook because of the platform it's on, but will be more discernible in this website because we can actually link everything together to show you exactly how it works and what they're doing.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be very cool.
I want to say something to the Canadian gentleman.
That would be me.
Yep. What's your name?
Fred.
Okay.
I know it says fingers on the screen, but that's just I'm a piano.
That's okay. Well, and on the site, I think it might even be a good idea under our documents library. We can put a section in for Canada specific.
Perfect.
And then that way, anything that we come across or Ken interprets as, hey, I should put this under Canada specific because this will enlighten the difference between what's going on in the States versus what might be going on in Canada. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I suppose you could peruse Kent's Facebook page because he's obviously posted a lot of stuff on there over the years. But it's going to be so much easier for you on the new site because everything is completely organized.
There's a lot of us that are fighting RBC and
Royal Bank of Canada.
RBC. Yes, RBC. I got a lot on RBC and how it ties in through Bank of New York Mellon. This is the back door of Bank of New York Mellon.
Give me all of it. Give me all of it, Ken. Everything. Throw me a paper avalanche. I don't care.
Well, that'll be on the site because I've loaded the patents in there. Now you will want to read the patents, whereas other people may not want to read the patents. You'll want to read the patents by Canadian, CIBC, Bank of Montreal. RBC, those patents are there, and how they intertwine with Bank of New York Mellon, how they're quite intertwined with our Treasury and our Federal Reserve, because there really is no border between the United States and Canada. I mean, it's borderless country.
You want to have a laugh? I've got a bank manager from the Bank of Montreal on tape. I tape my conversations now on phone. On tape as lying. She says, well, we have to protect our investors, for a bank loan. And I said, ma'am, do you realize I am taping you? And do you realize...
also that you're the one that's the investor.
I laughed and I went into the bank and I asked for the person by name and she met me in her office. And I said, I said my name. And she had security remove me from the bank.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, But I tell you what, a lot of these people, this is what the brilliance of what they did. It's no different than when we went down and you sit at a closing room table down here in the States, and you've got a closing agent that sits down, sits documents in front of you, and you see this MERS for the first time, and you say, what's this MERS? And you get to say, like, oh, it's just a utility function of Fannie and Freddie. And you believe it because it's so nonchalant and so believable. But now looking back on it years later, it's like, holy shit, they're passing through these innocent misrepresentations through employees that don't know that they're doing that. And that's the brilliance of what they've done here. They've passed through all this fraud through people that don't know. And those are the people that are going to be expendable. Think that they're going to get away with it, but in the end run, they're going to get nailed because now we've got the patents to lay on them, and they can't escape from those.
You're doing good work. Please don't forget your friends in this frigging freezing place.
I like your Canucks.
although it's nice at the moment, I can't complain.
What part of Canada are you in?
Cowtown, Calgary.
Oh, okay. I've been up there once. It's nice area up there.
Don't hold that against me. I don't like it here at all. I'm going to.
Hey, I live in the United States. Don't hold that against me.
Okay,
I'm cool with that.
okay. I have a
All right,
question.
thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for those of us that do not have a mortgage. John, will you have a section for that?
Yes, because
Thank
yes, but now and so everybody knows, and
Because I'm just imagining school loans.
yeah, there's all kinds of things that are going to be applicable. We're going to address all that stuff. But, and you know, the reason we focus and Ken's research is so heavily based on the MERS-NB agreement is because that is the big hook of this fraud. And so even though everybody doesn't have a mortgage and certainly everybody that has a mortgage isn't in foreclosure, I'm not in foreclosure, but I have a mortgage I want to get out from underneath.
Right.
And so,
Yes.
but that MERS-NB agreement and these patents and whatnot, they are the major hook. That's how they kind of brought this whole fraud together. It was the culmination of decades of work from these freaking bar attorneys. And so, you know, and that's why we focus on that so much, because it really just sheds the light on the entire fraud.
No, I understand that, but when I'm writing my papers, affidavits, and such like that, I don't have a mortgage, so I wanted to be able to tie it through there,
Right.
through MERS, through Mindbox, through Brightware, and go, through there.
Right. I'll let Ken address that more specifically if he wants to.
Those instructional videos that you're talking about there, all that you're offering at the site is really going to be a big help to people as they write their story and fill out their own process.
Oh yeah, I think everything everything's going to work synergistically from the document library to the forum that we're going to have at least monthly, if not biweekly, webinars such as this. We might I'm sure, extend a podcast off of all that. So
what I can even conceive of happening is that you mentioned being specific to Canada with some of your information, but I can even imagine the UK coming forth, Ireland, because I have friends in all these countries.
That covers all that stuff because it's all intertwined. I mean, you've got the I can produce SEC documents and the patents they're under, and also how the assignment process is conducted. That makes England and the United States a counterparty to one another, and how really all of our property under MERS is really registered through the 2005 real estate. I think it's called Real Estate Registration Act in England. I might have the name wrong of it, but somewhere along those lines. So how that's all interconnected. So no, these are things that, I mean, granted, there's different laws between our country and England, and same thing with Australia and everything, but and every other country. But it all comes down to one common factor, and that common factor is copyright. And everything, of course, intertwines through the good old boroughs of Manhattan, which is Bank of New York Mellon and DTC. No matter what country you're in.
Yeah, and what's funny is I got a friend that lives in Scotland, and I was talking to him several weeks ago, and he was describing his situation because he's in foreclosure. And if I didn't know he was from Scotland, if he didn't have that crazy accent, I would think he was just somewhat, he lives in Idaho next to me or something, you would never know. So yeah, there might be some specific differences in the way a code might be stated, but you know what? The beast is international, and so
yes, it is.
And I'm glad he mentioned Scotland, because Scotland goes again back to Mindbox and McDonald Duttweiler.
Yep,
I mean that line, that chain of title, if you will, runs consistent through all those countries, and it's all intertwined. And that's what's amazing about this, how intertwined it is, and see that's the importance of DHS and the importance of understanding what we're dealing with when we're talking about passport issues. And you got people out there that are doing these DS-11s for state nationals, and it's like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want. Come on, you got to. What we want to do is want to get people to say, listen, this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a whole different level of sophistication that you're not aware of because you haven't put attention attention to it. Well, here's focus to it. And what they're doing is it's called e-government, and you got this e-policy, which is something that is Bank of America and Mindbox created, that is issuing these electronic visas to ship us overseas and to ship people from Australia over here so that they can get these tax shelters going for themselves and hide the money and everything. So, I mean, it's all interconnected. Everything's interconnected.
That's right.
Oh, wow. Thank you. This is a lot to take in. Yes, it is. It's very mind-boggling. It was meant to
But
be,
it doesn't
wasn't
have
it?
to be. That's
It
the whole
doesn't
thing.
have
It
to
doesn't
be.
have to be. It doesn't have to be.
Well,
That's
with your website and all the work that you're putting into this, it won't be. So thank you ahead of time for all that you guys have put into it. I used to create websites and the boards and the whole deal. I know that it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours of a great team working together to do this. So my hat off to you and thank you.
And that's what's going to be nice for folks is they're not going to be rushed, you know, and they're going to have, you know, access and they can take their time and, you know, you know, just do things at their own pace. And, you know, there doesn't have to be a sense of rush, you know, and, you know, to absorb all this.
As this is not just a rush to remedy. What it is also, it's an educational tool because we can function in this new world, and we can in this new 21st century. We can function quite effectively, actually, and we could do very good for our families and our heirs and beneficiaries if we take the time to learn what they've done and how they execute things. I mean, there's nothing to say that we can't do exactly what they're doing, and really what they're doing is what they've hidden from us. So I mean, really, all we've got to do is really adapt to the ways that they've stolen from us and step into the shoes of our rightful principal. And basically kick this damn bar attorney out because it is the bar attorneys. The bar attorneys should be enemy number one. And this website will clearly show how, and it'll enrage people, but it'll also empower people because it'll show you how they're using these uniform acts in an abstract manner to kill people off. Not literally kill them off, but by legal death, so that they can come in and abandon our property for us. I mean, it's really despicable acts that are taking place here, and so this is a learning site to function in the 21st century and to protect yourself as well.
Yeah, and learn how to live on the private side because people don't know how to live on the private side, and this is really a lifestyle change in many ways. And it's just a complete, you know, metamorphosis of a way of thinking and the way of conducting your life. And so, that takes time. And that, you know, and that's, you know, that's why
there's no easy 1, 2, 3 step process. No. I mean, it's irresponsible to put that out number one in that manner because if you don't, it's like that would be like giving a 2-year-old a loaded gun. You just don't do it. You know. You got to have an understanding of what you're doing here. Now, nothing, and of course, everything that we're doing here is people don't have to worry about getting thrown in jail or anything because we're not doing. Because unlike other people that are getting thrown in jail, these are the people that are disclaiming the federal government and really belligerent towards the federal government. We love our federal government. We want to use. We realize that we have to have our federal government so that our federal government will protect us when we put ourselves back on the land.
You're going to make T-shirts that say "We love our federal government."
Well, I don't know if I'm going to go that. I won't go that far. I'm not going to go that far with it. But I mean, but the IRS and everything, I can't. These are things I can't talk about in the public venue. I just can't because these are things that are private. They have to be discussed behind firewalls. But I mean, I can tell you, I can say exactly how the IRS works, what the back doors of it is, how they're using coastwise and inland waterways, and how all that works. And the way it works is really not the way that people are describing it. The way that people have an idea of how these things are working, it's so conspiratorial, and it is conspiratorial. But to some degree, you know, you got to get when the metal meets the road. It's like, okay, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with commerce. We're dealing with commerce, and we're dealing with stolen identity. Okay, how do we recover the stolen identity, and how do we function in this new 21st century commerce that we were intentionally made ignorant of? And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, all these other things, these Vatican issues, and I mean, it's all well and good, but at the end of the day, your remedy is going to come through commerce and through recovering of stolen identity. That's as simple as that.
Very well stated.
Thank you.
So, I think I'm about done. My mouth's getting dry.
Any last questions before?
Testing, testing, testing. I do have one question. Ken, does your particular, if you're saying that it's going to be, your remedy is going to be in commerce, are you dealing with both the public and the private side, or are you even dealing with even before it gets to, even before it gets into commerce, you're trying to deal with things when you talk about the copyright and the patents?
Well, it's gonna be those are intellectual property issues as far as capturing those. As far as the commerce side, it's really going to be a choice whether you want to function in the public or private, which really comes down now. Now you got questions of UCC and whether you need to record a UCC one or not. If you're going to stay private, then you wouldn't want to record one. You kind of want to be in a federal contract trust and let the Fed protect you, not the Fed, Treasury protect you. But if you want to function in commerce and you want to form a business, you want to make money off of your investments or your identity or your intellectual properties, then yes. Then you'd kind of have a mix of public and private, and you'd be protected by a couple of different structures, a couple of different trust structures and bank structures, private bank structures. I mean, at the end of the day, you're an American national. And when you make that conversion, you become you're an associate of the corporation. So you're a national association, essentially. You're a private bank. You are the private bank. So what you're doing is when people sit there and say, oh, that's theirs, that's not ours, well, what you're doing is just saying, okay, well, you can have my private bank then. You know, and so really what we're doing here is we're taking a realistic look at how these things ground out. And so at the end of the day, yes, it's a mix of both public and private, but there's also decisions on what your role is going to be and what you want to be.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. So I just got a quick question. This could kind of answer a lot of clarity for people. Who can issue credit? Is it the debtor or the creditor? And if you have a particular problem, who should be the solution maker? Should it be the debtor or the creditor? And that's just something to think about for some people that's out there. So that's kind of a question they have to ask for themselves.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yes. Oh, yes. I see where I see where you're getting at. Yes. Yeah. You got to ask. Yeah. Exactly. You got to ask yourself. See, right now, what we're doing is we're fighting ourselves as a debtor, and all these issues that we're fighting in court, we're coming in. Same thing with FDCPA. I can't stand FDCPA. Everybody says, "Oh, file a complaint with FDCPA." Why would you do that? Then you're fighting this from a debtor side, and you're kind of admitting that you're a debtor. No, you're not a debtor. You're a creditor. So you've got to define on who you are and stand firm by that and make the claim. Of course, you got to make the claim and then stand firm on that claim. So yes, it is a personal decision, and it is a decision that, and that's why I keep saying you've got to come to a point where you either divorce yourself from all this court shit because that's a debtor and you're not going to get anywhere with it, and you got to totally walk away from that, and you've got to make your decision and stand by the fact that you're the creditor, and actually what you really are is you're the principal secured party.
Correct. What actually happens, Ken, is that the debtor is what we're classified as, but the creditor never shows up to handle his particular banking business. Right. Because he doesn't show back up and he's not well educated is why
right. And when it becomes abandoned property.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's abandoned property. So see what they're doing here to draw an illustration to that, to draw a picture of that, is what they're doing here is these bar attorneys are preventing us in every way possible from claiming our property on the creditor side, from claiming our creditor, and they're abandoning the property, and they're forcing us to abandon the property so that they could pick it up on the cheap. And that's where the Sharia law aspect comes into this thing. So I mean, they've got it very well orchestrated. So really, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really simple. It's do you want to be a debtor? Do you want to be a creditor? Make a decision, and also realize that these bar attorneys, they're going to do everything they can to ensure that you don't reach your creditor side. And on this at-law side, on the state court side, there's no way you can ever reach it because, again, what we're dealing with is a fixed system that is really a bunch of secret liens that's payouts and royalties.
A fun or interesting anecdote about the document library on the site is we actually have a section for Sharia compliance in our document library.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, for Sharia compliance is. I find what I find really odd about all this is you've got the three main religions who are supposed to destroy each other at the end of the day and the end of the world, and here they're working in unison with one another.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you have spiritual eyes, you can. Once you raise up beyond the earthly things that you see, and you go to a spiritual level, you definitely see what's actually going on that you need to negotiate and basically put the right type of papers on. I mean, the right type of words on paper to control your relationships and put people in order. And one thing I know a lot of people will be very mad at that say this, but what happens is the revenue collectors, which are any type of debt collectors, aka attorneys, they're actually putting themselves in because the creditor never shows up. That's the reason why they actually show up. So they're actually hijacking the creditor who never shows up in order to balance the book to keep the entire United States fair, right, and just and balanced from one side to the other side. That's what's actually
exactly, and they're stepping in the shoes of the principal secured party, and that's what they're doing, and that's what we got, and they're doing that through the DTC, the Bank of New York Mellon, of course through MERS, and that's why when I say fire MERS, what you're essentially doing is you're firing the principal, the fake or the purported fraudulent principal secured party, and inserting yourself in that position into your rightful shoes.
Gotcha.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome, man.
This is so symbolized in the book of Revelation. It's not even funny.
No, it is. You're
It
absolutely
just
right.
really
about it.
becomes clear when you talk about it from the standpoint of these positions and statuses and wow, it's just unfolding to my understanding like that. Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's the way that this does lay out. I mean it is biblical. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I'm a fallen Catholic. I was born in a house of unwed mothers at the Paul Infant Home. I was raised a Catholic. The day I graduated high school, that was enough Catholicism for me, and I have never looked back. So I'm not a religious man in that sense, but I certainly see the biblical implications here. I mean, I certainly recognize that, and that's frightening. But and to see it unfold before you is very strange, very strange.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes, very much so.
You can't really put your finger on it. You know something is greatly amiss all around you on many levels, and you have brought this together. Your team has brought this together in such an amazing way that the clarity is coming very fast.
Well, you know, and that's a nice thing. We really do, and I say this a lot, but we really stand at a pivotal point in history here. I mean, for centuries we've been getting screwed by the bankers and all these and the money changes and what have you. And for the first time, what we have here is we've got every single crime, if you want to call it that, written down in their own words, and it's all in public databases. All we've got to do is look. And they've done a wonderful job of making us ignorant of that. So, I mean, our greatest asset is our knowledge, because it's all right there.
I was going to say, Ken, what's amazing too is that, after, I've been a Christian for many, many years, and after having read the Bible, for 30 years, so much of what I've read over all those years, I didn't understand. Now that my eyes are open to this fraud and I understand how things really work, it's amazing how much the Bible talks about these things, especially from the point of view of how things really should be and how, how even contract law should work. And so it goes so far in exposing this fraud. And when you can open those spiritual eyes, it's just unbelievable.
Hey, John. Hey, John, have you ever read Revelations and really understood what it was talking about? And have you taken that trip into heaven before?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. Awesome.
I think the way I characterize the Bible, and I simplify it. I think the Bible is stories for us to get us to realize and free ourselves from slavery. But more so, once you free yourself from slavery, when become an executor, become that principal secured party, the question then becomes is what kind of secured party are you going to be?
Correct.
That's where their good and evil comes in. So when people talk about, oh, I don't want to be a part of the federal government, the federal government's evil. No, the federal government's not evil. It's the people that are in charge of it, the people that run it that are evil. The big question is, when you get to that position, if you can free yourself from those bonds of slavery, and you get yourself to that position, then the question is, what kind of one are you going to be?
Correct. You are 100% correct.
And it helps us to learn how to live as a true child of God. And right now, you can't serve two masters, and most people are serving the beast, the system, and they're not serving God, even though they think they are. And so, you need to
Well,
learn.
yeah, and everything is internal. The Bible is a story about individuals, but those individuals all make up you. It's all about you and your walk. I'm the John, I'm the Joshua, I'm all of the particular participants inside of that Bible. It's just a matter of finding out how that particular story relates to me, and they give you instructions about what you're supposed to do.
Once you convert yourself administratively, you prove you are the I am.
Yes. Yeah, and yes, and that's what I say. And the problem I have with that is when you have people saying, "Well, do a legal name change." No, you don't do a legal name change. Why would I ask permission for somebody to tell me who I am when I already know who I am, and all I got to do is claim it and then stand by it?
Know who you are, live who you are, and be able to stand based on that.
Correct.
Exactly, and unfortunately, you can't do it in the states. I mean, you just can't do it because there's no facility for it in a system that's at this level is totally corrupted and totally fixed. You have to do it. You have to go back to your roots, and those roots are back to the federal and back and make that conversion. And that conversion is through that birth certificate. That's the only reason for that birth certificate is that is your conversion. That's your converting of the bond into stocks. And that's conversion from saying I'm not an accommodating party, and I think that's where we got to update our terms. We talk about I'm claiming myself alive. Well, actually, what you're doing is you're really saying I'm no longer the accommodating party. I'm the transmitting utility. I'm the living man. I'm the one. I'm the energy here. And once you do that, then everything changes at that point in time because now the federal government is endeared to you, and you're their boss. And then they have to go after these guys. And that's where the IRS comes in.
Awesome. Yes, I definitely appreciate you, sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And, excellent to see some other people out there that have the spiritual eyes to see and hear what they need to see and hear to be successful. And as you mentioned, to turn the tables and take your rightful position.
Very edifying. Thank you.
Yeah, and we don't have to, it's not, the thing about it is, it's not, we don't have to, I mean, the anger, yes, I've got a lot of anger towards bar attorneys, and I do express it, but, I mean, overall, though, my anger is not, it's not really anger, it's almost like an appreciation, it's like, okay, now I know what it's like to be free. Now I know that freedom does come with a price. I wasn't born free. I got to earn my freedom, and this is the path that earns that freedom. So you've got to go through this road of evil, if you will, to find the other side. And running to the light is not running away from the federal government. It's running towards that federal government because it's on the other side of that where you find total freedom and peace.
Understood.
It's beautiful.
Awesome. Have you heard of a foreign protection order by chance? Have you heard of that before?
A foreign protection order? Sounds familiar.
Okay.
I think I've heard. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay. It's just another way to kind of protect yourself. I think there was a gentleman by the name of Jonah Bay that actually put something out, do not stop, do not detain.
Yes. Well, okay. In regards to those do not stop, do not retains, this kind of goes back to state, national, and kind of passport issues, and of course licensing issues and everything. Okay. When you make that conversion through, now you're dealing with DHS, you're dealing with electronic visas, and now you're making that born again conversion that we were talking about earlier into digital. And so you're getting into digital type identifications and digital type driver's licenses and permits and whatnot that puts you that are your do not stop and do not retains, because now you're a diplomat.
Gotcha.
And
This
you're doing
sounds
it from
like
the
this sounds
electronic
like
side and the digital side,
yeah.
not from the paper side.
It sounds like the good side of the the electronic and
Well,
digital
it is. It's born.
change.
It's born again. You're born again. I mean,
It's,
you're born
mm-hmm.
again. So I mean, because with all this paper stuff is obviously people are doing DS11s. I understand what they're doing. I understand why they're doing it, but I want them to relook at that. And I think once our site explains to them what we're dealing with here, people start seeing that. Oh shit, there's a whole different way here. There's a whole different manner of operating now. And this is the 21st century. And boy, being digital is being born again. It does protect me, and it does make me private, and it does put me above these codes and statutes and whatnot. And if you think about it, how do these administrative processes function? I mean, how do securities function? They all function through certificates. Well, those certificates are not just certificates for securities and whatnot. They're also certificates for any kind of transaction or any kind of administrative process. Well, those certificates are all digital certificates. So once you take control of all those digital certificates, you've got control of it all. Nobody can mess with you anymore.
That's huge.
That is huge. It's absolutely
It's
huge.
completely life altering.
Yes, it is. Yes, exactly. It is. I mean, we're functioning on this paper world still, and the paper world is gone. I mean, we got to make that. That's another conversion that we're making when we do that conversion through Treasury. We're making that conversion into the digital age and born again. And that's our born again, our digital. That's our smart card. That's our passage to everything. It's our passage to be left alone and to function through life and to be above codes and statutes and everything. And that's the importance of these things. So these are all things that people haven't looked at because they don't know.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Thank you much.
Okay. Well,
Thank
it's
you.
11:30 here. So
Everybody, don't forget to send me their email address.
Yes.
ojohnm@gmail.com.
Thank you.
ojohnm@gmail.com.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work that you're doing with the website. Looking forward to that and getting hooked into that.
Yeah, thank you for having this webinar.
And John, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Do me a favor, and I emailed you a bunch of categories. Can you set those up today?
Yep.
Okay.
They'll be available for you in the morning.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Ken.
John. Thank you, Feline.
John.
Thank you, everyone who attended.
Good night,
Looking forward
guys.
to the next one.
Thank you,
All right.
Ken.
Good night. All right. Good night, guys.
All right.
Good night.
Everybody can save chat if they would like to retain what was written here. Well, I'll hang out for a few more minutes to give you a chance to do that.
I do have one other question. It was a guy that was just speaking.
I can't take any more questions.
No worries. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are we done?
We are done. Just giving you a moment to save chat. We are completely done. Yes.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Okay, to save chat, bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little gray box with blue letters. It says more. There is an arrow pointing down. You click on the arrow and it says save chat there. Hope that helps.